Now, well, you've got many other reasons, but if the riot never took place, you would not be here talking to me right now. You wouldn't know I existed, would you? People in the world, they're just like little, majority like ants, you know? You got nuclear weapons pointing there, nuclear weapons pointing there. War and contention and arguments, nation against nation, and innocent people coming up in the world, kids, all sort of people, you know. It's not that they're not affected by these things, you know. It makes them think, what's life about? You know, there's many questions what they ask, what nobody cares to answer.
The Broadwater Farm Estate, a place that has witnessed the ebb and flow of history, marked by the triumphs and the challenges that have sculpted its very essence. Nestled within the fabric of Tottenham, this iconic housing project stands not only as a physical testament to the urban development, but also as a crucible of social change, resilience, and the indomitable human spirit. In the early years, the Broadwater Farm Estate was not just a collection of buildings, but a microcosm of social tensions and urban complexities. At a time when economic disparities and racial tensions were palpable, this community faced a myriad of changes that painted a vivid picture of a volatile area. The estate gained notoriety for being a hotbed of social unrest, reaching a tipping point in the infamous Broadwater Farm riot in 1985, a tumultuous event that exposed the deep-seated issue of systematic inequality, disenfranchisement. The riot, sparked by the confluence of the factors including police actions and long-standing grievances, became a pivotal moment in the estate's history. What began as a protest against the death of a local woman escalated into widespread unrest, with tensions boiling over into clashes between residents and law enforcement. The event of that fateful night left an undeniable mark on the collective memory of the Broadwater Farm Estate, highlighting the simmering discontent and the urgent need for social change. Central to the estate's tumultuous history were gangs that once roamed its corridors. These were not merely groups of individuals seeking mischief, rather they were a manifestation of the social-economic challenges that plagued the community. Gangs, often formed as response to lack of opportunities and a yearning for a sense of belonging, became intertwined with the fabric of daily life on the estate. Territory, identity, and the quest for survival drove the dynamics of these groups, creating a complex tapestry of alliances and conflicts. To understand the Broadwater Farm Estate's transformation, we must unravel the layers of its past, confronting the narratives that once defined it. The gangs, with their intricate codes and hierarchies, were a manifestation of the struggles faced by a community grappling with external pressures and internal strife. However, as we navigate through the intricate web of history, it becomes evident that this community is more than its tumultuous past. Join us as we explore the evolution of the Broadwater Farm Estate, unearthing stories that extend beyond the headlines and stereotypes. This documentary invites you to witness a community that has confronted adversity, challenged preconceptions, and forged a path towards resilience. As we peel back the layers, we'll discover not just the dangers that once lurked in its shadows, but also the untold stories of strength, unity, and the enduring spirit that defines the Broadwater Farm Estate.
Humbly beg your mercy, that the soul of your servant Mark, whom you have called from this life, may be brought by you to a place of peace and light, and so be enabled to share the life of all your saints, through Christ our Lord. Amen.
I don't know what to say, man. I'm just flabbergasted. Flabbergasted. There's bound to be some people who just don't like, you know, racists. Who knows what the motive could be, you know? You know, the examples there.
Do you feel hatred against those people?
At first, yes, but after thinking about it, no, you know, I won't stoop to their level, you know. Hatred only brings you down to their level, you know. And you find you're going backwards rather than forwards.
And when you see NF written on your mural?
Well, it means that somebody's getting frightened of seeing the truth, you know, seeing harmony, you know. People, you know, they don't like down-to-earth things, you know. They like escapism. You know, if we painted naked people up here or something like that, you know, or war and all that, that would have been better, you know. Maybe paint Hitler and murderers, that, you know, maybe they'd like to see that, you know. When you paint like scenery, you know, things that are nice, you know. No matter what it comes down to, who's done it, can't be anybody with any love in their heart, you know, or any kind of harmony. So what you're here, what is your purpose for being here?
Try and find out something about life on Broadwater Farm. What kind of people live here, what they care about.
Why Broadwater Farm?
It seems like an interesting place where lots is going on.
Why? Why is it interesting?
Well, I suppose partly because of the riot.
Right.
And partly because of the community organisations.
Partly the riot. That's the only reason you're here, isn't it?
It's not the only reason.
No, well, you've got many other reasons, but if the riot never took place, you would not be here talking to me right now. You wouldn't know I existed, would you?
Hello, Margaret. How are you?
Oh, I'll be all right on the day.
Hey?
I'll be all right on the day.
What are you doing today? Hey?
I don't know.
All right, hold on. All right. Sorry, Margaret.
Both of them sound right. No, it's one of them. Both of them.
Just evenings after school. Staying after school.
No, because there was some apprentice courses coming up, you know?
What's that, computer?
No, road maintenance and,
Justin wouldn't do that, Justin.
no?
Yeah.
And building and that.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen you before. What's going on? She's passing up and down.
Oh, no.
In your jeans.
Yeah, we'll get Ron.
Confidential, yeah.
Anyway.
I'll talk to you a bit.
I'm gonna run next, so I'll see you later.
Yeah.
About 20, all right?
I haven't got no money. I've got £1 between me and death. If I die now, I can't even bury. Give me 10 Benson. Please. Yeah, I don't mind. How's it going, Margaret?
All right.
Talk to your son, have you? Have you heard the latest?
No, what? Oh.
My boy.
Oh. Key.
Secret. Secret. Let me into the secret. I like secrets. Yeah.
You see, this one, right, is for over that part there. So we level out the thing already, innit? Yeah. The radiation thing. But we got this one around here now to do. That's this one there that we're doing, you know? Mm-hmm. What if we got to dig down, is it 1.42?
So how old are you?
17,
And when did you leave school?
last year, January.
Is this the first job you've had?
Yeah.
And how do you find it?
I think it's all right, you know? It's a bit hard waking up 8 o'clock in the morning, but it's all right.
If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Sleeping, probably.
And why did you leave school?
I just got fed up. And plus they expelled me anyway.
What did they expel you for?
For just truanting.
So do you think that this kind of work might be good for the future?
Yeah, it's an experience.
Do you think there's something special about Broadwater Farm, that they have these kind of projects, or do you think you could find work like this elsewhere?
No, it is good that they've got these sort of things, you know? Helping the youngsters. Yeah.
So what do you dream of for the future, something you dream of the future?
My future? No, I just want to own my own modelling agency. Yeah.
Back it up, Josie. Please.
Yeah, well...
Come, Classford, do your job, man. I don't want no 50-50 love, don't want no 30-30 love. Vaseline?
Yeah?
Think you like you're using Vaseline? Nivea, my dear, Nivea.
What's up? Go shoot! Go shoot! I might do that in a drawer.
Why are you getting serious?
I'm getting serious.
I'll be serious with me, okay?
My
Where
drink,
did-
man.
Where did Danny
You want
put
to drink if you want to drink, man, but you know, it is mine, you know, big,
Passage, I'm just going to give these out, right?
big bully.
They're from Paul and
Hey, Joshua.
BDS.
You do so much, man.
Okay?
Did you leave something for me here?
You want to walk with
it's
your
there.
Tina, just in case?
It's all right.
In case what? What can I do for you, sir?
For me? Well, you can give me your job, that's what you can do.
Catchford, what's going down, man?
What's going down?
So you know I work for the council?
Can't
Them
find
sack
my
you
man.
up.
They ain't sacked me, they don't work to rule. I mean, what good's that to me? I'm not earning nothing.
You don't get paid? You're in a union, man.
Yeah, but the bonus and that lot goes, man.
What do you mean the bonus? So you're getting money for doing nothing?
Yeah, but that's not the point.
You
Where
want
the
to come
hell
on
did
here
I-
and
Look at all that overtime that's going to waste.
Where have I put my mail?
you want to come here and get extra work?
Yeah.
And then
why
go
not?
back when the job done?
Yeah.
And deprive one of we from a job? I gave you 50 pence this morning.
I know, boss.
Spent it on what?
Toast, and I got 2.20.
You spent 30 pence on toast.
Food toast,
Huh?
and I got 20.
And you got what? 20 left?
And my 20 at being. Whoa!
There is no sensible reason for anybody to say that people from Brixton should come to work in Tottenham, or people from Brighton should come to work in Tottenham, or people from Blackpool should come to work in Tottenham. Please let me finish. Please let me finish.
Or people from Jamaica come to work in England, really. That's the same thing, the mobility of labour. You are challenging the mobility of labour. That's wrong. You're wrong.
No responsible thinking person could expect anybody from outside a community to come inside a community and do just as good a job, right? Please, can I finish? Anybody who lives on Broadwater Farm or who lives in Stamford Hill or anywhere, right, will do a better job than drafting anyone from anywhere in the country, right? And what I'm saying to you is, as an English man, right, I deserve the right to work in my community.
One moment.
Right?
Okay.
Simple as that. I deserve the right to work here, right? And you can't tell me I can't work here, and your governor can't tell me I can't work here, because that's my right. I live here.
All right. Fine. Yeah. Right. Could we move on? Yes.
You understand now, and I think it's clear. No work can be put up in Broadwater Farm without recruiting local labor. Now, we don't want people to come here and patronize us, or, you know, goody-goody to tell us, all right, we are going to take 3 people because we are goody-goodies, right? So you have to get the act together here, locally, with the council. The community needs to see the contract or tenders, you know, before they are put out, so that we can see how much potentiality there is in each contract for employment.
I think the point has been made is a correct point, and I think it's a point that we have considered in the council, that in terms of the contracts that are let to contractors, that is a clause that is in there, and it is supervised and it's monitored, not only by the BDS, but by the residents themselves. That clause will probably be struck out in future. I mean, are you aware of that? I mean, do you know about this in terms of contract compliance? Yeah?
Can I come in and back?
Yeah.
Broadwater Farm have no intention for any building go up on Broadwater Farm unless local labor is used, and away from local labor, unless some of those contract is given to the co-op, government, council, or anybody, because we are going to sit there and no contract will go up. Yes? So it's best as an MP to go back to the House and tell them that Broadwater Farm is one of this community who is going to fight for that, because we are not going to go back in the time when youths don't have a job and old people cannot walk and this house in the state. So you can tell the government that Mrs. Kiffin from Broadwater Farm Youth Association said that this is the time that they are going to arrest me and put me behind bars, because I'm the first one who's going to take out the youths this time, and we are going to sit there and we are going to build our fire underneath there and cook, right? For as long as it takes us. All right?
Well, can I say that I would be more than happy to pass your message on to the Prime Minister and the relevant people, but I think that it would be better coming from you yourselves. And I understand that there is a minister coming here on Thursday morning, Marion Rowe. I think that you should tell her what you think about this exclusion of this clause to do with local labor, because I think it's an abomination.
Take on the things and bother with this, man. No, don't come in here. No. The public business is no. Don't even bother take off on the things, man. We don't want no more television people here. Too much television people. We're not criminals. We don't want to be fought out.
I don't know what's wrong with them. What don't go down the high road
No, a pure work I go on over here, sir.
I'm telling you, from 8:30. From 8:30 this morning. Don't put a fucking camera on me, you know, fucking break it. Don't put it on me. Nobody put no camera on me at all. If you put camera on me at all, I mash it up. I hope the television don't come.
Very fine woman, looking woman. Very fine woman that is, isn't it? Jolly good looking woman. I know you're conservative, but it's too late. Yes, you are. Conservatives. Come on. What? Yeah, still conservative. Hello, Lady Di. How are you then? Looking nice.
Game is over.
Yeah, this is the this one with all the flagpoles.
The flagpoles coming in.
Yeah, all the flags.
What they're doing now is laying the hard ground, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, we're putting in some hardcore.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And we're taking off a wall over the back there.
Yeah.
Which we're seeing much difficulty.
And how many of you work here? Just the two of you?
No.
No?
You see, we're spread out over two sites, you see.
I see. Oh,
We've got
I
the
see.
Nation Gardens and the Remembrance Gardens.
Yeah.
Over the other side, you know.
So how many are in
split-
your team? How many altogether?
11.
How many girls in the team?
Only one.
That's you.
She's the only queen we have there.
But the second phase will be all girls.
Alternative vision.
Immediate response. Are you all happy, everybody?
Yes.
Fine.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we move on.
Well, no rest for the wicked.
Very nice to meet you both.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So she came over here to say, well, you know, I've been to the Broadwater Farm, and then when she goes back to reporting, she's going to say, well, yeah, it's not so bad, I was treated so and so, or whatever them want to say. It was a publicity business to say them come over here.
Yeah, well...
But no, I'm not over here, really. She not do nothing for we.
I mean, we get down to the facts of it. It's all right standing up and smiling with a geezer with a spade, or having a conversation with somebody who's driving a dumper. But the policies that her government are putting forward means that the guys that she came and could stand up and crack a smile and have a joke with this time next year won't be allowed to hold a spade because they won't be allowed to have that job.
I'm not going to work up there.
You can go and work back there because you're security, you've got a good job, you're a good secretary, you can work the computer, and you're good. You don't want to be working with the painters then because they don't, you've got no prospects. Tell her not, Joe.
Yeah, you've got no prospect.
She's upstairs in the office, mate, you're office girl.
Don't tell me what I am.
Just go. But you're secure.
Not upstairs.
Tell you nothing else, can't leave, and you can leave, and look what happened to you now.
You didn't want me to leave because you can't use the phone now?
I can use the phone any time.
Well, go and use it.
I use any phone. I'm international. I've got 3 stripes and 2 pips. I'd come out there to see you. And say,
sure.
Hi, babe, what's happening?
Yeah, no, same time he's got this woman on the other end of the phone.
She's not my woman.
He has to say that. He's
I'm no woman. That's just an associate. I picked up the number. I was walking down the street and I picked up this number and I have to ring it every time. And this girl always says, "Hi, what's happening?" You know, it's not my woman. I'm having a woman. I'm a bachelor. It's my one-parent family. I like big belly.
No, it's true.
One parent. Well, you're a one-parent family as well, so I don't know what you're going on with. I think we one-parent families should get together.
I mean, to me, if you're going out for the night to enjoy yourself, you want to put your child with somebody you trust. Go and enjoy yourself and come back without worrying the world.
That is
not sort of be out in your brains going over like a sponge.
That's right. We're all here.
That's right.
To get acquainted with somebody. For example, you have met me before. Today is the first time.
First time I've seen you.
If I had a kid and you get to know me and trust me, then you'll be able to leave your child with me, won't you? Whereas if you never met me before,
I won't leave it.
This is it. So this is why I said if we come together and get acquainted to each other, then you pick, it's not just 1, 2, 3 women, a group of women, and among those group of women, maybe you'll be able to pick one person you trust.
Yeah.
You understand my point? You know, I think...
Because it's such a personal thing. I don't think that anything's really right or really wrong. You just have very different ideas, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but what is it you're looking at? Just a baby sitting still 2, 3 hours a night or something like that, or an all-night sleepover sort of thing?
It could lead to that. I mean, it's up to who's ever looking after
Who
wants the child to be
Everybody's got a different life, you know. Some people go out at 9, come home 11. I mean, I won't go out until 11 and come home next morning.
I'll come with you.
Do you like it, yeah?
Yeah, it's... Well, I like it, but it's got a name, but that's only what other people have given it. It's not half as bad as what it's painted. I mean, I've lived here 17 years. I've never been raped, mugged or broken into, so, you know, it can't be that bad. And I walk around all hours, so it's not too bad at all. Seamless.
Do you find it difficult coping alone?
Not really. Well, I've got used to it now. It's nearly 5 years. And I think, if anything, I've got so independent, I think even if I did go out and meet somebody and it come they wanted to live here, I don't think I could cope, you know? Because I've got myself in such a routine with my kids. Like, we got our time together, they've got their time and I've got my time. And for me, for an outsider to come, no, it's disturbing. No, I couldn't have it. I couldn't have no man sitting here resting himself on my settee. Oh, no, I couldn't take that. Do me anything. Oh, I couldn't take none of that. No. No, I think a single parent, really, I think is the happiest person on God's earth when you're single. You only need a man for one thing. When they've done that, show them the door. No, I couldn't have no man oiking himself round near me. Drive me to drink.
And what kind of projects are you involved with at the moment?
Well, at the moment, we're doing massive paintworks on the estate, which is a joint venture between the Youth Association Co-op and the council. And we're also doing landscape gardening, which, as you know, in '85, you know, we had an uprising, you know, caused by the death of Mrs. Jarrett, you know, and we, at the moment, doing a landscape gardening, which is called a remembrance garden, which is in honour of Mrs. Jarrett and also the police officer, Keith Blakelock.
He died on the spot of the crime, did he?
Yeah, just over there.
Yeah, over the side there.
The reason why PC Blakelock's been included is because his death is a reality of what happened on Broadwater Farm. It's not something somebody made up, it's not fiction, it's something that actually happened, and we're acknowledging it, right? It's fact, right? And we're not hiding from it, we're not running away from it. The difference being, Cynthia Jarrett died in her home, a mother of children, and PC Blakelock was sent here as part of what we believe was some form of oppressing army. It's just a matter of, we don't want anybody to forget what happened, but at the same time, we don't want any other community to have to go through what we've gone through.
I came back on the Monday morning and it just looked like World War III. And I think everybody was in sort of shocked. I mean, in one way I say it shouldn't have happened, but then a lot of things happened that shouldn't happen. But I'm not being wicked when I say this. But in the other end, I think for the majority of black people that live on here, and the youth, especially the youth, because they get like accused of a lot of things, and I know some of them boys from when they was in juniors and infant school, because I was a dinner lady over there. They come from decent, respectable homes. But, I mean, I've walked along from here just to the play bus, and I've seen two kiddies, brother and a sister, in front of me, and a policeman with ginger hairs passed them and asked them, what you doing on the street without a lead round your neck, like if they're dogs.
Oh, man! Yes! Yo, Boko, you don't beat me. You lose more, you're not dread. Right?
I'm after you now.
If I watch this game, you know, your eyes have to be aware at all times. Yes, yeah. Boko, yo.
Man.
Sit you up. Come in, come in, come in.
Right, my king will do that to you. Set you up.
Malachi won. He always wins.
Yes.
You're a pretty good single parent.
I'm not one, I'm
Pretty
Malachi
good.
6.
We know you're 6. And if you don't be a good boy, you won't see 7.
I will see 7. I'm going to be 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about up to 101,000.
Yeah, live to 1,000.
Yes.
Probably will.
When I'm 1,000, will I be big? How old is God?
Oh, thousands and thousands of years.
Huh?
God is thousands and thousands of years old.
Is he 1,000? When he's in the clouds, right, he looks big is he bigger in a house?
Bigger than the world.
Is he bigger than you? Is
He's the only one that's bigger than me, though. Nobody else is bigger than me but God. Cool down, man. Malachi.
When I'm white, right, is that bit going to be brown?
You're not going to be white. You're always going to be black.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's going to change.
No.
White.
You don't want to change white.
Yes, I do.
Why?
So do I'm not going to be white.
No, if you'd be white, I won't be your daddy then, would I? Because I'm black and you're white, so I wouldn't be your daddy. So you'd lose me to be white.
I want to be white. I'm not going
Would
to
you
be...
lose me to be white?
No.
So you have to stay black then?
I want to stay white.
But if you stay white, I won't be your father because I'm black.
I know, but I want to be white.
So that means you're going to have to not have me then and be white, yeah? So
Be still white.
you can't be still white and I'll be your daddy.
Am I going to be white?
You're never going to be white.
But you said this is going to be white.
No, I said there was a little bit of white thing on your chest. I said you're turning white. I was only joking.
No, you wasn't.
Was? You can't turn black from white.
Wasn't.
You're upset now.
No, I wasn't. It's not a joke.
But your granddad's black, isn't he?
But what about my cousin's orange?
He's black, say
He's
what?
orange.
He's black.
He's orange.
He's not white, is he?
No.
So? He wouldn't be a cousin if he was white, would he?
He's orange. It's not black. It's orange. So are you.
I'm black.
You're brown.
I'm black.
Brown. Is he brown?
I'm not brown, I'm black.
You're brown.
There's no such thing as...
You're brown. You're
I'm black.
brown.
Alright? And you think they'll say you're black as well, and you'll never, ever, 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 ever be white.
You're brown.
I'm black.
You're brown.
You say me black man.
You're brown!
Me not tell you say me black man.
You're brown!
He's all your
Is he brown?
I'm saying everyone who appears on a camera over here gets arrested. That's why they all disappear when you got the camera.
Well, that's not true, in fact, is it?
It is true.
You're not going to.
I'm not going on there.
You wouldn't know because you wasn't taught, brought up to know how people suffer. You understand? People suffer in many ways, you know. It's not just not having money or, you know, many ways people suffer. Suffering jobs, suffering education, you know what I mean? It's not just, I've got no money or I've got no food, you know what I mean? It's just, you don't know sufferation. You've not been taught, you've not been brought up to know sufferation, you understand?
On his own, number 8. 2 and 3, 23. 1 and 3, 13. 4 40. 8 80. 3 30. All the ones, legs 11. Thank you. 2 and 4, 24. 5 and 1, 51. 5 and 9, 59.
59. The bottom. The bottom one there. Bottom one.
So where are you up to?
We don't know. Everybody has to go ready and burst out the stories.
But I don't mind, you know.
When tonight?
I don't mind.
Ready. Well, me no mind.
I don't mind.
It's up to them, man. There.
I wouldn't go back to where I was before. I mean, our houses were falling to bits.
Yeah.
We had a roof. We had the main roof. Instead of being like that, it was like that.
Nice.
And our bedroom was in the front, and we had to move downstairs.
No wonder we were all so damp and got all those black beetles.
Do you think that's what
Did
it
you get
was?
black beetles?
I don't know.
Can't remember.
We used to get all manner of vermin there.
We used to
mice
shovel
and
up.
rats and
Rats, we
bugs.
I know we didn't.
In the old days, you had
Oh,
bugs.
yeah, oh,
Everybody
yeah.
had bugs.
Oh,
didn't
yeah, you wouldn't be fashionable if you hadn't got bugs. Well, I mean,
Before you moved here, where you were living together, was it?
I wasn't living.
Sorry, when you were living on the same street.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, everybody knew everybody, you know. And there was a nice little pub at the bottom of the road, and I used to go there quite often.
And
In
is
fact,
it lonelier here?
lonely, yeah, I say it is. I mean, we're on our own, or most of us. Well, we got friends, but they don't come round and see us much, do
they
they?
won't come on the estate.
They're frightened to come here. When you mention Broadwater Farm, I say, oh, that place?
So I say to them, do you live there? They say,
Yeah.
oh no. They say that to me. Broadwater Farm.
Yeah, Broadwater Farm.
Because the old riots.
See, this is what finished
I mean,
it, really, was the riot.
Do you know, at one time, my brother-in-law came from Basingstoke to see us, and he couldn't find Broadwater Farm. He went to the police station, and they didn't even know. They started to look it up.
Oh!
Yeah. But they know where it is now.
I bless you. Well, I think they do as well after that.
I mean, there was all a fire going on out there, and they came up the stairs where she lived with the
They took all my
with the
milk
bombs.
bottles.
Took the milk bottles to make
Filled them up.
bombs.
Yeah. I heard them outside my front door getting milk bottles.
when I first arrived here, there was a gentleman who liked putting peanut shells in the lift. This is sort of Friday, Saturday and Sunday nights. But since then he's branched out. We're now getting in 2 lifts every weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. At least £2 of shells.
Do you know who it is?
No, but we presume he's Spanish in that he used to leave little poems about the way the world is run down and this sort of thing in Spanish, which we had to get translated, of course, to find out what he was on about. But he's still there and he's still going. That's 6, 8 years at least.
It's like frustration is a funny thing. You take it out mostly on the people who are close to you. Now, in a community like this where everybody knows everybody, right, tension can grow between friends, or friends can become enemies overnight and then they're in an enclosed situation again. And you've got a recipe for trouble, right? And I mean, I know you can ask all experts who study this and that, economics and sociology and all that, and they'll come up with the same thing. It's a recipe. It's bound to be a recipe for disaster. I mean, only a couple of months ago, a close friend of mine, a good friend of mine, was killed. And to me, that was a waste, a total waste. I mean, it was a guy who wanted to work. It was a guy that, I mean, if time had stood still, I mean, he would have been working now. You see, if you've got the feeling, I mean, for instance, if a person is working and he feels he's contributing, he's responsible, he is a man, right? Now, because of the way this society has treated us, right, I mean, it's hard enough for us to grow, right, but without a job, right, then suddenly what we interpret as manhood can be completely different. It's like to say that you cannot accept anything from anybody. You have to stand your ground. You have to be firm, because if you don't, you look small, right? And that's the sort of framework we've been pushed into, right? That's the sort of framework we've been pushed into. Anything that happens, right? You got to stand firm. I mean, the loss of a life is not worth it, right? No way, no how, right? We have to find something better to do than kill ourselves.
I mean, the day when Mark died, because we've got a little studio, you know? He's supposed to be around my house. And we was recording and everything. A couple friends came round to my house and said, Mark just died. So I said, shut up, rubbish, you know? So that's what you're talking about. They said, Mark just died. Someone just stabbed Mark and ran out at the youth association. So then all of us decided to go over there to see what happened. By the time we went over there, we couldn't even get into the youth association, because police was boarding it off, you know? So then we couldn't even still believe that he died. We thought that he just hurt and that was it. That was the end of it, man. Hey girl, long time no see. Do you have a little time to spend this night with me? I wanna know what's been going on in your life. Talk to me, baby. Your hair, the perfume you wear, bring back memories over you and me. You look so fine, you blow my mind all over again. Go ahead. We're killing it.
Jude! Have you brushed your teeth? You're coming in school. Come on, it's time now. Come on. Soon? Ready? Zay!
Yeah.
What are you going to do today, then?
I don't know if I'm coming up there.
Don't run up and down too much, you know. Because, we want a hoe, baby. Hey?
Sis him.
Don't want to give me one, eh?
See you later.
Okay, then. Well, what's up? Hey?
He was working for London Transport, and he met up with a lady known as Dolly Kiffin, because apparently they wanted to put a police station on the estate, and I think she came round knocking the doors and asking everybody to attend meetings, and he tended to be with her quite a lot, and they gradually got more and more people in their group or whatever it was.
Opposing the police station.
Yeah, and I think they went to the council and they got the little corner unit, the little chip shop that's now a hairdresser's, and they started to set up things for the youths. And
Why was Glasford against a police station?
why was he against them?
Who wants a police station on an estate where we live? I mean, everyone else has a station on a high road, on a high street. We don't want a police station over here.
Well, that's it, you see.
No.
Because directly, I mean, the estate was mainly black at the time, and you would have had a load. I mean, youths were thinking of blowing it before it was even set up. They were thinking of blowing it up. So you can imagine what would have gone on, you know.
I didn't see how they could just put a police station and didn't really do anything for the people that was living on here, the youths or the people who were growing up on here. That would be very much unfair. So I didn't really, I thought that the community should step in and see what they could do to help the community and get everybody together and then develop something in the community that would benefit everybody.
Were you worried about the youths committing crimes?
Yes, and I was worried about the older people that was getting mugged and their home was breaking into. Pensioners couldn't take the noise. The pensioners was dying in their home. Nobody cared. You couldn't live into a community like that. So, to be fair, and because everybody have got a conscience, you want to search out everything and try everything before you could say, well, the police station was justified.
Every young man in the ghetto want to have money. We say drive a nice car and smoke sensi. Some are modeling a suit and it can't see. Some are dream so hard that them gone crazy. The reality is truer than the fantasy. We dream about money, that's a fantasy. We have it in your pocket, that's a reality. When the dreams, it's the dreams of a ghetto chat. 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 So if you have no money, don't spend it wild. Whole time saying say the well will run dry. Yeah, listen this a youth, man, me not stop try. Me want a big house where me call TV. Me say that is not a dream, that is reality. Look how jungle is passing man, them trash and ready. Say that is not a dream, that is reality. I said I want every youth man to listen to me. If you rap Barkley, better save your money. Buy a big house and invest wisely. Listen them the lyrics from a DJ daddy. From the dreams, it's the dreams of a ghetto chat. Dreams, it's the dreams of a ghetto chat.
Don't make him play no ball. Harry, shoot! Please, Kevin! Please, Trevor. Yes, Miller. Inside, Miller! Yes, come on! Miller! Go on there, get on the man.
Come in on this. Come see what's going.
Put the man under pressure. Come in. I mean, I shoes, you know. Jesus, give me your fucking training.
Blood clot fancy business.
It's a little, this Broadwater Farm, it's like a little world of its own, you know. Because from you're in here, it's very hard even to come out. I mean, say you wanted to go out onto the street, you know, it's so hard to get out the place, to walk so far to even get a bus or whatever. If you haven't really got a car, you can't, most of the people living here all day, all week. They probably might come out once to sign on. That's about the only time to see, it's the only time to see the street when they go to the exchange to sign for the little government money, salary, which is bad news, man. That's how it goes, you know what I mean? That's how it goes.
We are you, Daddy. They're just not ready for us, mate. They're just not ready.
Soft, man. No, make them finish it, man. We're just not runway. We're just can't spring foot. What am I talking about? Replay. What the fuck? Hey, you see, we're showing us again. Rule change again, you know.
We draw with the management and we never play on the extra time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
We play management, we never play on the extra time. We are the undisputed champions of Broadwater.
Champion what?
Where? Come and go over here, sir.
Hey, wait, hey! Where you walk with me alcohol for, man? He's a bad man. Idiot for bad.
And you see how fast the painters them run?
Idiot for
bad.
Black and black don't mix. How? You go into one area, a black man and a black man can't get on. Why? You don't know what you say, right? Because
you have to look at what you buy.
All right, look at the works that Miss D do, right? And yet still, the paper them trying to scandal her, right? But it's not the white people them so much coming around and doing something. All right, we know the police and the government are gonna try something, but all the black people them around here and in enough place have no confidence. Them believe what they're reading in the paper. Enough of them, and it's a load of rubbish.
Majority of people do believe.
Well, so what? Is black people supporting black people? They're my idiot.
That's right.
They're my fool. They're envious and greedy because somebody's trying to do work for them, right? And they're not supporting it. They're not supporting it. They listen to the white people as well.
All right, listen. How much times you hear people say, me study this and me study that?
It's the same thing.
Me study she tried. There's always, as I said before, there's always someone to put me study down or put black people down. You try reach the top, they try to put you down. So when me study God, how we are going to cope?
I'm showing you
who's going to be there to say, well, this and that?
Support each other. They don't.
You don't think about that, do you?
Black was divided.
Because black man too ignorant.
Right, I'm showing you, and I'm showing you.
I'm not divided.
Hold on now. Listen,
I'm not divided.
I'm showing you, if because you say we fight, if because you say we do this, we do that, we're not divided, then you're mistaken, right? Because if you go to, listen to me, West Ham supporters, Millwall supporters, Chelsea supporters will come together, we'll come together to beat up black man. Don't tell me about no past, right, Rasta?
It's the truth, though.
Right, they'll come together to beat up black man, right? That's something that's been happening for years. We can't hide from that.
That's why we're trying to put a stop to it now.
All right, when do we get
Hey, listen. I love Michael. I have my 6-year-old son look from me and tell me he want white. And some other guy tell me, you know.
Right. And then that means that
must mean. He say he want grow up white because if he grow up white, he will have a better chance. A 6-year-old boy tell me that.
Him wrong.
I mean, never tell him nothing about black and white from him born.
Him not wrong. As a youth, him not wrong. You think about him thinking, I England this, you know.
I'm a 6-year-old boy can look for me and tell me say he want white.
I'm not wrong, because I England this.
He want me tell him, God now make you white, you know. Him say, listen, daddy, when I'm 18 or 19, I'll be white. And when I tell him God's not making him white, he's upset because he cannot be white. So what's going down? My fault. I've never taught him about racism.
It's your fault.
Why is it my fault? It's his school fault.
You're making the same mistake, man. You don't have to teach him about racism. All you got to teach him is that he is black.
He knows he's black. I've told him he's black. Right? He goes to school and a white boy look upon him and tell him Torati, you're better off if you're white.
And he come back and you have him for 6 years and the white boy tell him that and he come back and tell you same white.
I don't know what.
Are you a dreadlocks?
He's been going to school for for 2 years. So I don't know what am I teaching my school.
We are second generation black people in this country. The first generation went through that. Can't we learn from our own mistakes? Hey? Can't we learn from our own mistakes? Look, man, don't talk to me like that.
What would your son tell? You're talking to me like I'm saying to myself, boy, it's all right for you to be white. I'm telling you what my 6-year-old son come tell me. What would you tell him?
I'm not holding him responsible. I'm holding you responsible.
Why me? Why am I responsible?
Show the man the difference.
He knows he's black. He doesn't know anybody but black people.
Listen to me.
How am I responsible?
Listen to me.
How am I responsible as a black man? Tell me.
Try and understand what I'm saying.
I don't understand what you're saying. I think you're quite negative.
Listen, I went through that, and I know. Listen to me, man, and I now know why I went through that. I know why my parents gave me a little skinny comb like that and said, comb your hair with that, when that comb couldn't possibly comb my head.
I don't teach Malachi white culture.
So what are you teaching?
Black culture.
How?
At yard. I teach him about black culture.
How do you teach him about black
What do you mean, how do I teach him?
Teach him how to grow, Rasta.
What do you mean, how to grow?
How do you teach
He's
him
a
about
6-year-old you.
black
What can you
culture?
tell a 6-year-old you?
That's right, you don't know how to teach a 6-year-old black culture.
What do you mean black? I'm black, I'm not white.
Yes, that's right, you're black.
So am I going to bring him up white? When he comes home, we don't eat fish and chips.
So what's he eating?
He's eating rice and peas.
But what if I'm telling him what fish and chips do?
In the
It tells him we don't like rice and peas, what fish and chips. When I tell him you can't eat nothing? You can't eat nothing because you want fish and chips?
He does tell me that.
It don't make a difference. It don't make a difference. If you say to him, well, all right, you want fish and chips. Well, fish and chips is not your real food. No, I'm not saying you can't teach him. I said, can he understand at 6 years old?
Then how are you going to understand that he must eat what you tell him to eat?
Not what me tell him to eat. We are giving something to eat, but it's for good for him, right? I'm trying to put it across. And
Yeah, but you're trying to tell him that he must understand that he must have what you tell him because he's a kid.
Yeah, all right then.
So why can't he understand anything else apart from that?
May I make him grow first? May I make him grow first?
The man is
You're
right.
mistaken then, and you're living amongst
You live in-
Listen to me. So what books are you going to read?
You know more about black people than white people, innit? You know you're white.
I know more about white people than I know about black people.
Why is that?
What do you mean, why is that?
You choose to learn about white people, innit?
What do you mean? I've had 16 years. I had 16 years of teaching about white people. I learned nothing about black people. I know. Listen,
He's right.
I now know more
He is
about
right.
white people.
He has not
than I
known
know
nothing about black
It's
people.
up to you to go to the library to learn about
do you know about black people?
You're right. We're right. We're black. We have to live as black, but we have to live in the white system. You understand what I'm saying? We can't go out there and say we're going to fight the system to be white. That can't work.
Richie.
That can't work, Rasta.
If you're black, now listen to me.
You're
if
black
you
and that's
are
it.
black, all right, answer me. If you are black, right, and you are trying to live in a white system, and the system will not let you live, what are you going to do?
Why are you trying to be in the white system, though? Because you choose to be.
You're in a white system. That's what you said. You're in a white. You're in
This
a
is a
white
white
country.
country, innit?
This is my country. That's
Yeah.
what you fail to understand. This is my country.
And my country too.
That's it.
Right, you understand me,
I'm in
right?
Barney,
So
sorry.
I'm not into no white business. This is my country.
Because you're born here and you live here all your life.
That's the difference.
A man have got no respect for man. White man have no respect for white man. Black man don't have no respect for black man. Right. So the only thing, as far as I'm concerned, now personally I'm giving you my personal view. The only thing as far as I'm concerned, right, is that it's only God when I will come down, destroy all the sinners, and we live life again.
England we there, 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 England we there. Wake up in the morning straight in the bathroom, brushing my teeth and then me watch them gloom. Sitting at the kitchen, me make me breakfast. England we there, we have to fast. So England we there, 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 we have to score one goal. Now we no jacket, we have in a hole. If me do that, me would have suffer one cold. My heart don't carry no hold. So England we there, England we there, England we there, England we there,
England we dey, England we dey, England we dey, England we dey. One prime minister in England. To tell you the truth, she is a woman. Just get elected for another 5 years. What's happening nowadays? So, zee boom, zee boom, zee boom, boy, yeah. Zee boom, zee boom, boy.
Well, would I never believe said she that I the woman the daughter.
You want to stop looking on the rascal girl? What woman daughter?
See what we even proud. You don't know what? Do you know who mum is?
You don't know? Better we don't tell him. Better we don't tell him. Better we don't tell him. You don't know who her mum is? You will find out soon. You never seen them walking together? Alright.
Me coming to the wedding, though, that must be
my wedding? Me are the last man for marry riot. Me? When me marry me 65.
Thank you for it.
65.
Why 65?
By 65 I was supposed to be shattered. I'm supposed to be no use to nobody.
Marriage is an institution that was created for the slavery of man.
Yeah,
Not by a woman.
Yeah. No, I believe it's them bringing the marriage business, you know.
Of course.
They must have bringing the marriage business.
It was a woman.
Marry them, man.
Hey, look, people think women are stupid. Of course not. Who else could come up with an institution that makes sure that she will be looked after until her dying days?
And we don't get the looking after. You believe that? We
get
get the pressure.
Deliberately.
We get the pressure, the migraine.
The man is conned into believing that he is the brains of the operation.
What do you want?
Come in.
Come after me.
Come in and talk, because you're my hygiene. I want to give me some skin.
Where your skin?
Who?
What skin you want now?
Are you my love?
Your love?
So I go down.
Well, this is it. Yeah, I'll get Mr. Silcott. Now you want to say nothing, Mr. Silcott?
Say what?
Come with them, man.
Say what? What do them do? What them could do?
Say what you have to say.
Hmm? Them advantage my son. The majority of these people advantage my son. Yeah? My son have no argument with Broadwater Farm Riot.
No.
And he's still sent to prison for maximum 30 years. Yes? And my son have no argument with it. He's no ringleader of nothing. He was in nothing that he have to be a ringleader. Yeah? Okay.
I second that. Sticks is a casualty.
He wasn't in nothing to be a ringleader. And if the truth should come forward. And as far as me see these people, you're supposed to have a lot of intelligent people in this place here. You're supposed to. But we are them now. We are there. Me not see them. Because as far as I see them blind right now to the facts.
Listen, everything they are trying to do is to ensure that he does not come out because they want this country to believe that their policemen can be safe walking the streets because they can find the killers. And we know that is a lie and that their policemen are not safe on the streets. And if they do get hurt and if they do get damaged, a scapegoat will be found to pay for it. We know that now. Right, but we didn't know that before.
Innocent man have to be punished.
Why? Because that's the system. Because somebody's got to pay. Somebody black has got to pay.
That is not right.
Of course it's not right, but who? Has it ever been right towards
That's
us?
not right.
Has it ever been right towards us? Why all them parents let their children go to the wall time after time after time? Go to the wall, and suddenly now we realise it can be serious. It means that they can take away our friends for... And I'll never see him. How am I going to see him? The only way I'm going to see him then is for me to say, well, me and my brethren have to go break him out of prison because the system don't intend to give the boy no freedom. Because as far as they're concerned, somebody must pay.
Nothing could happen worse than what happened here.
it's going to get worse. You don't understand?
Worse what?
Of course it's going to get worse. Look what happened. They kill a mother. They shoot a mother. They lock up innocent children. What worse can happen? They can come at your yard and kill you. They can come at your yard and kill you. They can come at my yard and kill me, right? And they can go to a British court and a British judge will look at them and say, it's all right, you don't have nothing to answer. Shoot a woman, it's all right. You was under stress. You've been working so hard and we gave you a gun, not realising the pressures you was under, so you could go in there and shoot her. But don't worry about it. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to dismiss the cases, but you can't have a gun again. Great. Well done. Justice has been seen to be served.
Andy.
N.
What have we got here?
Nest.
N for nest. Good boy. N for nest. Right.
O for ostrich.
Good girl, Tanisha. O for ostrich. Come on, everybody. O for ostrich. Right. What do you do with this, Tanika? Yeah, what do you do with the pear? Do you throw it?
No, eat it.
You eat it, right. P for...
When I had my Andrew, he was 3 months old. Took him to the clinic, right? And I was feeling a bit down because I'm one of them, I like to have things to do. I can't sit reading a book or knitting, you know. So I went down to the doctors and I was a bit depressed. The baby was 3 months old. Other people go to doctors and they say it's postnatal depression. Me, I was supposed to be made. So this woman come, right? But she didn't come to me, she went to the school. And she wanted to pick up my 2 boys, take me into care. Well, to me, that's the worst thing you can do to a child. A strange woman, take your kids to a strange place, you know? But in the end, I got all my apologies and everything. But then that's besides the point, because if I wasn't the way I am, and, you know, it'd been another young woman, they might have just broke down and the kid's gone away. Well, I just told her where to get on her Bowick, you know what I mean? And if she wanted a kid, she'd best go and breed one, because she ain't having mowing. The reason I think the majority of them is black that got the nursery and over there and that, I think it's because they got up and, I mean, nobody's saying that white people can't go there. I mean, I'll go in and out there, nobody don't interfere with me. And I'm sure if they had a vacancy and I wanted a job, I'd get it just as good as any other black woman. But I think there's no such thing as that they're taking over, because they ain't taking over nothing. They're just doing what should have been done, and it just so happens that it's a black group of people that have got it off the ground. So that happened, I die.
The way I'm going to grow my son is I'm going to grow him as an individual and compare him to nobody. He's got to do the best for himself. I'm not going to tell him he's got to go out and do that because he's going to build a better world. I'm going to tell him he's got to go out and do that because if he doesn't, the system's going to get him. You understand me? I'm going to be totally honest with him. I'm going to explain to him from I believe he can understand, and just hope that maybe his mentality can grasp what I'm saying and maybe he can get his head down.
Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Right now we're going to ask the mothers of the church, the parents, godparents of this little child to come now. We're going to seek God's blessing. And if you look in your song sheets, you will see a song there. When mothers of Salem, their children brought to Jesus. This is no new thing. It has been happening throughout the ages. And we're following the instructions of Jesus Christ that they should be brought to Him.
When mothers of Salem, their children brought to Jesus, their service disciples drove them back and made them depart. But Jesus saw them, and here they left, and sweet this smile and kindly said, "Suffer me to children, come unto me."
If the police say, as it's being alleged, that they want to see another riot in order to make their revenge, right? If that happens, well, of course, it's rather something that we would have to discredit outright. But you've got to first prove that that is the case. I'm not saying that you or anyone should not speak out continuously against visible police brutality.
Right.
It always exists. But at the same time, you use an expression about fighting fire with fire. We're a loser by doing that.
I know, I know. It's
That's-
like what is going on in South Africa. But for me, I know there is a day, and that day is not far, that I must die. And if I die today, I'm just dead. Because as long as I know I died to let someone else live.
But why should you die when you could do something more positive? You can't contribute anything to society when you're dead. You can contribute more while you're alive.
It doesn't seem possible for us to do anything positive
Oh
with
yes,
this government.
I believe it's possible. The spirit of togetherness and the spirit of harmony seem to be shining and reigning in your faces and in your hearts. And there are some times when some situations do occur that spoil things, and of course we should have our heads screwed on and make sure that we are one people, live together as one people, brothers and sisters, and we're quite sure that if we follow this pattern, we will be able to overcome all the difficulties that we seem to be experiencing in this part of the world.
I'm sure everyone else here will agree with me when I say I hope, you know, Jermaine has everything good coming to him in his future life and takes advantage of all opportunities that come his way. And everyone will agree with me when I hope he grows up to be someone that we can all be proud of. Okay?
When I come to make a speech, people kind of know what I stand for. And I hope that racism doesn't raise its head and avert my nephew, my godson, from getting what he really deserves in life. They can just go through life and get whatever he, as a youth and as an individual, properly deserves. I look here and I see some old timers, some of my dad's friends, and I know that as a young child I grew up amongst them. I heard a lot of things they said and I learned a lot from them. And I hope that JJ can see us and learn a lot from our experiences, our trials, our tribulations, our joys and our successes. And I hope that he can go forward and have many successes of his own in the future. God bless JJ.
But to all the people that have come, I'm happy because this is special to me, because to me he's a new dawning, he's a new generation, and hopefully he'll get better than what the last generation did get. So, you know, I'm grateful that he's here, and I hope he has a much better life than I did, really and truly.
If it's one person, there's an idiot. If it's a bunch of people, they're a bunch of idiots, you know. And they've come back the second time and attacked the picture again, you know. About 7 weeks, 7, 8 weeks.
What do you think motivates them?
Stupidity, you know. Malfunction in the brain, you know. Because I mean, people in the world, they're just like little, majority like ants, you know. You got nuclear weapons pointing there, nuclear weapons pointing there. War and contention and arguments, nation against nation, and innocent people coming up in the world, kids, all sort of people, you know. It's not that they're not affected by these things, you know. It makes them think, what's life about? You know, there's many questions what they ask, what nobody cares to answer. But through artwork, you know, you can put things what people can recognize. They can see a picture and it can give them an uplift. It can make them feel better. They can say, yes, you know, there is something more to it than just, you know, seeing all the bad things, you know. And then, you know, you get the idiots coming along, or the idiots, whoever they are, they're just smashing up everything, you know. They're just destroying everything, you know. Yeah, it's not the farm. The farm's not the only bad place in the world. There's many places worse than the farm. You know? Many places. They can't stop me anyway. I'll do it again. If they come back and wreck it a third, fourth, fifth time, I'll come back and I'll paint it again, you know? It just makes me stronger to keep coming back. Yes, I feel annoyed and I feel angry when they do it, but it doesn't take long for me to destroy that feeling within myself, suppress it, and come back again and do it in the right way, you know? So in a way, they're doing me a favor, you know? It's a bad way to get stronger, but you got to make the advantage out of bad things, you know, in life. That's the best way to do it.
This is a story about innocence and guilt, the short distance between the two, and how rage and mistrust left people unable to tell the difference. It's the story of how one night of rioting illuminated the racial fault lines running through 1980s Britain. It's the story of how a London policeman, Keith Blakelock, met his death at the hands of a raging mob, and how failures of police leadership made that death more likely.
And you could see machete blades coming across the top of the shields. I remember thinking to myself, if I can get out of this, I've still got this to deal with behind.
It's that feeling that you're penned in and trapped. And they were shouting, kill the bill, kill the pigs.
It's the story of how, in their outrage, the press created a monster to stalk the nightmares of Middle England. Winston Silcott.
It's like a stereotype in my case, this big black man to be fearful of.
It's the story of how the murder investigation sowed the seeds of its own failure and led to a notorious miscarriage of justice. Above all, it's a story of why, 18 years on, there's still a sense of injustice on both sides, and how this stands in the way of resolving the unanswered question. For many people, the events of 6th of October 1985 on the Broadwater Farm Estate in North London conjure up a distant memory of inner-city turmoil. For those present that night, though, it remains very much more than that. My name is Kurt Barling. I had friends who grew up on the farm, and by a quirk of fate, I was there at the start of that night. I'd come to drop off my brother-in-law, who was new to the area. As I pulled away, another car pulled in to get directions.
Excuse me, mate. Yeah? Can you tell me where the farm is?
A farm in Tottenham? My brother-in-law had never heard of the farm, but he soon would. His flatmate's car would be one of the first to be set alight as the riot took hold. 9 months earlier, the Broadwater Farm had been a place fit for a princess.
Finally, the Princess of Wales.
Drawn by the improvements made by the Youth Association and Harringay Council, the Princess of Wales came to perform an official opening ceremony.
I mean, the buzz in the community was fantastic. The royal family, you know, looking down on what we're doing, the changes we're making, it was colourful. I mean, it really was a great day. I think she thoroughly enjoyed it.
They had found ties that I'd never actually seen before. A lot of the men had found jackets. They had made a wonderful effort, and there was a great feeling of genuineness and joy about the day.
But not everybody was pleased to see Diana.
I'll never forget Princess Diana's personal protection officer coming up to me and being very, very concerned that there was one individual who was quite clearly out of place and therefore a potential threat.
Who was that?
And that was Winston Silcott.
Dressed in combat fatigues, his normal work clothes, Winston Silcott stood at the back of the room and shouted his displeasure.
Winston felt that we probably should have had us open it because it was a black centre for black youth. We probably shouldn't have been doing something so glitzy. I mean, the local authorities spent quite a bit in making sure that this happened. So no, he didn't support it at all. And, you know, he came there and he said, we don't want Diana, we want jobs, we want work.
Years later, the tabloids would hype up this encounter. To the Tottenham police, the episode fed the reputation of Winston Silcott as a violent gang leader with attitude.
Winston, I think, had some degree of aggression towards police, and equally, be careful. I think if you were to be on your own and stop him and you were to end up into a physical confrontation, he was quite a powerful individual.
Within 2 years of Diana's visit, Silcott would be convicted of the murder of London policeman Keith Blakelock. And the newspapers would trumpet the judge's description of Silcott as an evil and dangerous man.
The majority of newspapers don't give you facts. They're selling you a story. But I always believed in the end, because what happened to me was so blatant, the truth would will out.
Winston Silcott was raised in a God-fearing home in Tottenham.
Hurry up, Winston! Quick, otherwise you're going to be late!
It seems an unlikely place from which to start a criminal career.
I was around about, say, 12 to 13, and it was not too far away from Christmas, so I decided to buy Mum a Christmas present. So I went to the local chemist, which was not too far from the school, just across the road really. Went in there and I bought a cheap bottle of perfume. As I was coming back into the school, I came across a teacher, and the teacher asked me what I had in the bag.
Winston Silcott?
Yes, miss?
Come over here and bring it with you.
The teacher asked me for a receipt, so I started to search my pocket and I couldn't find the receipt.
Now, where did you get this from?
I bought it, miss, from the chemist. I paid for it myself.
There's an easy way of checking on it. Follow me.
The teacher decided to confiscate a bottle of perfume from me. So I was wondering, that's a bit strange, that they must have thought I stole the bottle of perfume.
Many black youngsters in the 70s were still enthralled to their strict church-going parents.
I have a young coloured boy here.
Humiliations like this introduced them to prejudice and sowed the seeds of discontent, even resentment.
He did? Oh, right. Thank you very much.
Our way to deal with it was to say eventually, fuck it. This is what you say we are. This is how you keep on treating us. Well, just watch this. And it's also how you treat our parents. And our parents are decent, gentle people. So we're not going to be gentle. We're not going to turn the other cheek and allow you to do this to us. England is where we were born. We've got nowhere else to go. So we're going to stay and we're going to fight for it.
For many, that fight began at Broadwater Farm. From the late 70s, the farm was neglected by Haringey Council and turned into a dumping ground for problem families. Once it started to go downhill, the labyrinth of stairwells and walkways turned the place into a policeman's nightmare. This model was a central part of a police contingency plan. It helped officers learn the complicated geography of the farm and to plan in the event of real trouble. Seldom would there be a place in which lack of local knowledge would prove so deadly.
You look at it and you think, oh, I bet somebody spent, the best part of their life designing this. But then if you take a perspective of how you would need to respond to it in a policing context, you can see immediately that it does represent a number of difficulties.
So what about the walkways?
A very difficult policing problem. On the basis that they are above you at ground level, then obviously they do represent quite a significant problem.
In day-to-day operations, the police had a degree of control at ground level. But local youths had the run of the estate's walkways. Rocks, paving slabs, televisions and fridges routinely dropped out of the sky. Every officer who patrolled the farm's concrete wastes had a story to tell.
The farm was one of those wonderful 1960s architect-created edifices which may have looked good, but it was not designed to minimise crime opportunities. We were driving an unmarked police car through the estate, and as we were going underneath the walkway of Tangmere Block, a metal beer barrel landed on our car just in front of the windscreen. If it hit us on the roof, it would have been quite a serious event.
Would have killed you?
It could have done. Could have done. It's not the way I like my beer served up.
These walkways converged on the deck of the notorious Tangmere house, which the police regarded as the source of many of their problems. The deck of Tangmere was at the heart of the farm. What were once shops are now flats. The deck, now fenced off, allowed access all around the block. The stairwells brought you up from the car park below. All over the farm, police officers patrolled in pairs for safety, but here especially. Parents of youngsters growing up around the farm looked on bewildered as the estate's reputation sank. The farm could be a thoroughly nasty place to live or to work as a policeman.
Bye, Mum, just off the church.
OK, Winston, take care now.
But there was more to it than this. There was a growing sense among black youths that most police saw being criminal and being black as the same thing.
You had some police that were racist. You had some police that were inexperienced. You know, and people was just getting arrested and snatched and searched and all things, you know, that are degraded. You know what I mean? And people just didn't want that, you know, and it was always happening to the young black people.
We were young, we were full of testosterone, we were angry, frustrated and bitter. And we made some bad decisions, and our way of dealing with things was really to put two fingers up to society and its rules. If you're not going to allow us to participate in your society, then to you. And basically that's what we did. And we went off the rails.
There was a time, within the space of 4 hours, I've been stopped 5 times. Twice by the same 2 police officers.
Mind you, people did have choices. Clasford Sterling went into the army. Winston Silcott and Stafford Scott went into other people's houses.
With the earlier stops by police, when you weren't doing nothing, you came to a stage where you just thought, well, they're going to stop you for doing this anyway, so you might as well do it. So that's what happened.
Winston Silcott and friends built criminal reputations, breaking their way into homes across North London.
Go, 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 go.
In 1977, Winston Silcott pleaded guilty to 9 counts of burglary and was sent to Borstal. Stafford Scott was jailed for 3 years.
And I think what we tried to do was to put fear back into the white society, the wider society, wider community, the same kind of fear and anger that we felt.
In 1981, this anger exploded onto the inner city streets of Bristol, Brixton and Toxteth.
Toxteth on Merseyside also experienced a similar explosion of violence. Again, police found themselves at
The police were startled by the undeclared civil war raging in their midst and by the lack of leadership within the force. Their response was twofold. They got properly tooled up in anticipation of future trouble.
Specially trained district support units were equipped with mitre shields, protective helmets and fire-resistant suits. Their positive response...
At the same time, the police adopted softer community policing to try and avoid confrontation in the first place. But Tottenham police still felt able to run an aggressive stop and search operation, calling it All Sorts.
We
had not got a background and a good track record in this area in terms of getting into the community. This was a division which was part of a district that had a culture of more effort and attention going into policing Tottenham Hotspur Football Club than it has in community relations.
The commander in Tottenham was an old-fashioned hardliner, Jim Dickinson.
I think there might be a section of people who would have thought that we were concentrating too much on perhaps the Broadwater Farm area and the youth, but this was the seat of the trouble, and obviously you've got to go for that.
For traditional law enforcers like Dickinson, community policing was code for race relations. He didn't see this as his job. He believed he served the community best by catching criminals, white and black. In your view, what was the best way of making things work down there on Broadwater Farm?
Policing, normal or high-profile policing, as a deterrent to those who would come out for the main purpose of robbery at that time, and they were plenty.
In the face of groups of aggressive youths from ethnic minorities, the ordinary policeman was confused. Was he supposed to be nasty or nice? What some police called bending over backwards. Tension between the community policing focus and strict law enforcement fed those intent on confrontation. It was easy for any racist police officer to say he was only enforcing the law. It was just as tempting for the young black hoodlum to claim he was being persecuted for his colour. These contradictions were keenly felt on the farm. In the summer of 1983, Jeff Betts was among a group of officers called to the farm to arrest a suspected drug dealer.
I drove the van down to the scene, and by the time I got there, there was a crowd of maybe 30 or 40. They were just watching. I went to the back of the crowd to just keep an eye on things, make sure I didn't get out of hand. I detected movement, and I looked round, and there was this chap about 5 yards from me running towards me with a knife. It was a knife probably similar in length to that, my impression, but obviously a wider blade. You know, a real sort of Boy Scout old-fashioned sheath knife. He was sort of crouched down, running sort of like this for some reason. Yeah, it wasn't sort of that way, it was definitely there, sort of roundhouse swing. I carry on turning, but obviously I don't turn enough because the knife still, it goes round the back of me and sort of in just there.
While Jeff Betts fought for his life in intensive care, the hunt for his attacker began.
I got just an impression of a thin-faced chap with a straggly, wispy, goatee-type beard and a funny hat on his head.
I think a name came in the frame reasonably quickly, though. Who was that?
Oh, you're talking about Winston Silcott.
It was always Winston. Winston was a symbolic target. Whenever anything happened, they came to Winston, and part of it was because Winston was a thorn in their side. He was someone who would speak out vociferously against police brutality.
If anything happened in Tottenham at that time, certain police officers were there. That's Winston Silcott, or he had something to do with it.
And so, how did you get word that they wanted to see you about Jeff Betts stabbing?
Well, they contacted the Youth Association. They'd like to see me down at Tottenham Police Station.
Winston Silcott went to the police station, but despite his reputation, he was quickly released. There was no evidence. So had he been fairly accused? Only 2 men know for sure. One of them is Jeff Betts.
So was this fellow who you saw coming in with you with a knife, was it Winston Silcott?
Definitely not. I've seen photographs of him and he'd been pointed out to me in the past, and I'd have known it if it was him.
But some police officers still insist he did it. Such is the potency of the Silcott legend. Police had been watching Winston Silcott for years, but the following autumn they set up round-the-clock surveillance on him and his family. For 2 months they followed his every move. Winston Silcott was no angel, but it's hard now to tell the difference between legend and history. The police saw him as a dangerous gang leader. But could he be responsible for all the crime on the farm? 2 months of round-the-clock police surveillance came up blank. That didn't alter the police view of him, though. Broadwater Farm officers were keeping a log as relations with local youths went downhill. They saw disaster looming.
Near miss from a bottle thrown at us from deck level. No sight of suspect, but lots of warriors around the top of the deck.
Black youths crowding the walkways started to throw missiles at us.
Found 2 empty metal beer barrels, bricks, concrete, etc. on walkway.
In the increasingly hostile atmosphere they described, it would take just 3 small events to push the farm towards the precipice. In early 1985, police ranks were restructured and Jim Dickinson retired.
In fact, I was not replaced, leaving this great void in the middle of leadership and control that had existed in the commander rank for the last 90-odd years.
Though his no-nonsense approach might have added to tensions, his public order experience made Tottenham a hard place to start a riot.
Police car the target of missiles, causing damage to roof.
Fire brigade bottled. While checking out area, a bottle nearly hit us.
At the same time, some of the key community leaders playing a part in keeping crime down on the farm flew out to Jamaica for the summer. Without their vigilance, strange cars and unfamiliar faces started to appear on the estate. Drug dealers were moving in. The police were desperate to avoid confrontation, treading on eggshells and confused over how to handle situations.
I remember that going to the duty officer and saying, look, I've got information about this address, that we think there's drugs being dealt at this address and we'd like to go and get a warrant and search the address. And the duty officer would sort of look at it and say, well, no, we're not going to do it, it's too risky. And we wouldn't go on there. So whilst we sort of operated a uniform patrol during the day, certainly during the hours of darkness, it was really, really difficult to go on there.
All through that summer, the police feared the worst. And the worst happened. But it didn't start in Tottenham.
Last night, some 400 mainly black youths roamed the streets. They attacked police and firemen, throwing stones, bricks and petrol bombs. Reinforcements were brought in from neighbouring forces, and by midnight more than 600 officers were trying to contain the violence.
On September the 9th, Handsworth, an ethnically mixed suburb of Birmingham, exploded in an orgy of violence, looting and arson. Douglas Hurd had been appointed Home Secretary in Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government just days before.
I made a mistake over Handsworth. The outbreak came really within days of my being surprisingly made Home Secretary. And I was very keen to show, willing, not in a PR sense, but I was just, wanted to see what was happening and get to grips with it quickly. And in fact, I arrived rather before the riot had died down. It stirred it up again, and people started shouting and milling about in the streets.
Keep moving, please. Keep moving. But as the mob and stones caught up with him, Mr. Hurd found himself on the run. Fears about his personal safety began to rise. His car lost in the crowd, a fortified transit van was summoned. Mr. Hurd was hustled inside and taken out of the area.
But Handsworth, Birmingham was a long way from Tottenham, London, where community-minded Chief Superintendent Colin Couch was in charge. 3 weeks after Handsworth, violence erupted closer to home in Brixton, South London. The riot was sparked when the police mistakenly shot Cherry Gross, a 37-year-old mother, in her own home.
When you hear that a black woman has been shot in her home, in her back, when police went executing a warrant looking for a black male, it absolutely takes your breath away. Absolutely takes your breath away. And what I think why the society doesn't understand is why we respond like that. But why we respond like that is because in many cases we think to ourselves, rah, that could happen to us. You know, the police could come to my house looking for me.
Senior officers in North London eyed events across the river with apprehension. Policemen on the ground sensed trouble.
We went both to the district headquarters and to Tottenham to speak to the senior officers because of our concerns that everything seemed to be in place, that we just needed one unfortunate incident and that would light the blue touch paper.
Floyd Jarrett was well known for his flash cars. Unfortunately, it frequently got him noticed by more than just his friends.
The car had got no tax on it, or had got an out-of-date tax disc. The registration number didn't exist. The tax disc was for a different vehicle, and the engine and chassis number appeared that they may have been tampered with.
All of a sudden he said to me, "This car's stolen." I said, "Stolen?" I said, "I've had this car nearly 2 years. This car's not stolen, this is a collector's item."
The vehicle was brought back to Tottenham Police Station, and he was booked in to custody procedure, and then we wrote down our notes.
Jarrett was well liked on the farm. He was suspicious of the police and gave them next to no help now. Police suspected he was hiding something and went to his parents' address near the farm. But Floyd no longer lived there. Looking for stolen property, police knocked on the door.
And there was no reply, but you could hear noise in the house. It was obvious that there was someone in there. And then I remembered that I'd got the keys with me. So I put the key in the door and opened the door.
Meanwhile, at Tottenham Police Station, Floyd Jarrett was being processed.
He brought me out to the desk, sergeant, and said, "We're charging you for assault." I said, "I sworn who? I didn't swear anybody." And by the way, Mr. Jarrett, your mum's had a heart attack and she's died. But when he said it to me, I dismissed it. I thought he was trying to get a reaction from me or something, so I didn't react. I just listened to him and just didn't believe what he was saying.
Floyd's mum was Cynthia. In the house with her were her daughter and grandchildren. The search found nothing, but she collapsed. The police wanted to give first aid, but were ordered out.
And we were sort of trying to say, let us in. But I think that the family were too angry and upset, and there was no sort of communication taking place, and the door would shut, and then it would open again about 20 or 30 seconds later, and again it'd be like, "Where's the ambulance? Where's the ambulance? Get an ambulance." We said, "We've called one."
They went too far. In 7 days, they went too far. They shot Miss Gross on the Saturday, and the following Saturday they killed my mum. How much more can we take? What had the black community done to deserve this? We had to make a stand somewhere along the line.
Cynthia Jarrett was like a second mum to Floyd's friends. For everyone, her death spread fear that another riot could erupt. Chief Superintendent Alan Stainsby visited the Jarrett home at Thorpe Road to express his regrets.
There's a whole range of emotions in there: tears, anger, frustration, very anti-police, quite an intimidating atmosphere, but it had to be done. I mean, I'm not just talking about telling them who's going to investigate it. Someone had got to sit down and say sorry.
At around midnight, the Jarretts went to a meeting at the police station. Outside, demonstrators demanded the suspension of the officers involved. 4 windows were broken. No one was arrested, no one was suspended. Police spent all that evening on the phone and in meetings in a desperate bid to avoid a riot. But as he drove home, veteran Tottenham copper Wally Porter feared where all this was heading.
You started to realise a riot and a fairly violent reaction was now almost inevitable. And I think that sense of disappointment and fear at the same time just sort of swept over me, and I just had to stop. I couldn't drive. And I just had to stop and get out and walk up and down for a few minutes, just trying to take deep breaths and think, God, what am I going to do next?
Nobody would have described Serial 502 of the Met Police as an elite fighting unit. One of them, Richard Coombs, was a community officer elsewhere in North London. This was the type of policeman whose role it was to foster good community relations, as much a social worker as a beat bobby.
42. I picked up the paper, and just in the stop press was a little thing that said a woman had been killed in a police raid or died in a police raid in Tottenham. And although we've been told that we'd be patrolling High Road Wood Green, it's not many miles away from Tottenham, and you think, oh dear, I wonder what that's all about.
And then there was Steve Martin, just 19 years old and down from Liverpool, still finishing his training as a policeman in London. He was to have a baptism of fire.
Come the October time, I was still in my probation. I was 19 years old then, relatively inexperienced. We were called up on the main channel, and our call sign was Serial 502.
The first job of the day for Wally Porter was to deliver the Broadwater Farm contingency plan from Tottenham to Wood Green.
I had the plan on the front seat that contained some maps with estimates of the type of numbers and equipment that people would need in order to take possession of the walkways, and then give an opportunity for others to sweep in and take the ground level and disperse any disorderly groups.
Deputy Assistant Commissioner Mike Richards took charge of the Broadwater Farm contingency plan. Richards was the senior officer in the control room that was set up in Wood Green, and so was in overall charge of the Met Police's response to what was to come. In anticipation of trouble, Scotland Yard had already ordered a bat and gun team to report to his station later that day. After a night of rumours and threats, there was a lull on Broadwater Farm. This calm was not to last. The first policeman to approach the farm that morning was Community Liaison Officer Paul G. Dispatched to Tangmere to attend a meeting, it started reasonably enough, but with the arrival of one angry resident, the mood changed.
He started to shout and scream at me that the police had killed one of ours now we're going to kill the police and we'll start with you, looking quite clearly at me, and there I was, the victim, ready to be sacrificed.
For Paul G, on this occasion, it came to nothing. He returned to the police station as a gloomy messenger.
His message was that there would be a riot. It would be a lot worse than it happened in other parts of the country, and that police officers would die.
A restless crowd gathered outside Tottenham police station, again demanding the suspension of the officers who raided Cynthia Jarrett's home. Haringey youth worker Stafford Scott was sent to calm tempers and prevent trouble.
I didn't want to see that in my backyard. I didn't believe that we would gain anything, even if you were able to destroy Tottenham police station that night. So we decided to take the crowd away.
It was fairly soon after that demonstration dispersed that you started to get calls to the estate, which were 999 calls. The decision had already been made that we will not respond to calls because there were concerns that we were going to send people into very dangerous situations.
At 3:30, 2 officers were lured to the estate and very badly beaten. The police would later identify this as the moment when the contingency plan should have been initiated. In the control room at Wood Green, they were, by all accounts, unaware of the attack on the 2 officers. Far from implementing the contingency plan, men were stood down. Trained riot officers were sent home. At the Youth Association in Tangmere House, another angry meeting was in full swing. Somebody had to pay for the death of Cynthia Jarrett. There was talk of an eye for an eye. Chief Superintendent Alan Stainsbury clocked on at Wood Green.
I couldn't believe that we'd had all those officers on during the daytime, and for some reason we'd stood them down and they were on their way home when the riot started. Common sense seems to dictate to me that you would have waited until the hours of darkness had developed a little bit before you dismissed men. But nevertheless, that's the circumstance that happened.
The meeting at Tangmere decided to march back to Tottenham police station. There is no agreed account of why trouble then flared on Willen Road. One thing is certain, the demonstrators never reached the police station.
So a decision was taken to block us in on Broadwater Farm. We were here at the exit of the farm, and someone looked in this direction and said, "Ah, look, man." And when we looked, the road was just jammed with police vans. And they weren't ordinary police vans, they were riot vans. They were a new kind that many of us had never ever seen before. People didn't know what was going to happen. The vans turned up. These officers came out of these vans, officers came out of these vans, and they started to push us back down on the estate. Get back down there, get back down there, you're not going nowhere, get back down there, get back in your hole, get back in your fucking place, you black bastards, you're not going nowhere.
And people were saying, we're trapped, we're trapped, we're trapped. So the fear factor rose. One person who probably had more anger than fear said, we don't have to take this. We haven't done nothing. Why are you all behaving like this? Why are you crying? Why are you screaming? What are you scared of? And he picked up a stone. And when he picked up the stone, people started to move back. There was lots of crying going on at the time. When he launched the stone from around here, in this direction here, all of a sudden, it went deadly quiet. Screens were cut off halfway through. Everyone watched the stone because everyone knew the significance of it. So they saw him throw and they watched the stone go through the air and watched as it came down behind the police lines here. And then the instant response after that was to move away from it. Because everyone expected, our experience has always been that, you know, if you do something like that, the snatch squad's going to come and grab you. People moved away from him. The snatch squad didn't grab him. He turned to the crowd, he said, see, come on, we don't have to take this. He bent down, he took up another stone, and again, He threw the stone and people moved away, and we watched it come down behind the police lines, and we heard the grunt of an officer as it hit. And then everyone moved even further away because they definitely expected him to get arrested this time. When nothing happened and he went down on the third occasion, there was a whoop went up in the crowd. People said, yeah, as if to say, well, this is what we do. When put under attack, we fight back.
Simultaneously, fighting erupted on other streets. What the farm now needed was serious public order experience. But Colin Couch's talents lay in the art of community policing. At the farm that night, he would face his toughest test. Serial 502 was a mixture of community bobbies from other parts of London and probationers fresh out of college. Down at Wood Green, they were preparing for a riot. PC's Keith Blakelock, Richard Coombs and Steve Martin had little idea of what lay ahead.
I'd never been in a situation where I'd had to put this sort of kit on before. There was a lot of nervous chit-chat, a lot of nervous laughter. The overalls I got were, I don't know who they were made for, but it was somebody considerably larger than me. Big long shields, short shields, riot helmets, riot suits. And we got ourselves kitted out for something that we weren't really expecting.
And then I booked the van out, and we loaded 12 blokes into the back of a Sherpa van, which is no mean feat. If you've ever seen the back of a Sherpa van, it's not really big.
Those dozen men of Serial 502 heading for the farm were not frontline troops. It was in no one's mind to send them into the heat of the battle. Sergeant Chris Sevier was in charge of another serial. As they arrived, they got an extremely hostile reception.
Our inspector got out and walked to the corner and got hit with stuff as he got to the corner. It was just a showered with bricks and bottles come flying at him. So we deployed immediately into the junction with shields and was there for quite some time and had stuff thrown at us.
Must have been pretty terrifying.
I was frightened, and it's not an easy thing to say, but I was terrified. I was shaking, but it wasn't only me, everybody was doing the same thing, or the vast majority. And what went through my mind was, can I get a small injury and go to hospital, please? But you can't. You're doing a job. You're trained to do the job, and you just can't run away. You've got to stay there and do it.
Chris Sevier and his serial of officers came under attack here at Griffin Road. Sergeant Bob Hughes led his men towards the action at Adams Road, just one street over.
Well, the first thing we had to do was we had to abandon the van because we couldn't get any further, and I'm pretty sure it was somewhere along here. I can't be absolutely certain now. And when we got out, I decided that we would deploy with short shields, which is the round shields that you see officers with, instead of the long shields, you know, the tall ones. If we took long shields out, inevitably we would end up at the front and we would be the ones that were going down. Because as the successive rows of shields reached the front, they were knocked down by the sheer volume of debris.
So you took the short shields effectively to avoid having to be put at the front?
Oh yeah, yeah. One of my better decisions,
yeah. It was on these two streets that the battles were being fought. On Adams Road and Griffin Road, lines of officers were taking terrible punishment.
Unit calling for urgent assistance.
2 miles away at Wood Green, the officers in the control room were doing their best to make sense of what was happening.
Everyone go ahead. Gloucester Junction, Handsworth.
You've got people there taking radio messages from the estate here. You've got people taking radio messages from Scotland Yard because other stuff's coming in on 999. There's telephones, there's people plotting on a board. You're recording all the units that book on. You're recording the jobs you've given them. You're trying to keep track of the whole operation. But the whole situation was already moving faster than we could control it. There were messages on the desk, people asking for urgent police help. They were nearly 20 minutes old because there weren't officers to send. As fast as officers were coming back to us, we were sending them out.
Stay at the location and control the situation.
Not everywhere was madness and mayhem. At the Gloucester Road end of the estate, all was quiet. It was here that Richard Coombs and Serial 502 arrived in their van.
As we arrived, there were still other units there. There were 2 or 3 other units there, but because it was so quiet there, they got back into their vans and they went, which just left us standing on the corner.
We were just left there. I got the impression that we were put there because we weren't an experienced unit and we were pretty much in reserve. And we wouldn't be used unless it was a sort of last resource. And so we waited, and we waited.
Across the farm at Adams Road, Bob Hughes and his men were being bombarded with anything that came to hand.
I vividly remember standing just here, taking strikes all the time off of quite a wild variety of incoming. Things like tins of peas, tins of beans, spanners, which I think had come from either Tangmere, the shops, or from the vehicles that had been broken into on the estate. And this stuff coming, you know, zooming in and crashing down around you. And I can remember vividly crouching down and looking up into the streetlights and seeing just the sheer debris coming over. The comparison I use is that of a flock of starlings. You know how a flock of starlings just wheels and moves? Well, as you look up and you could see into the streetlights, all you could see was debris, 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 and it actually was piling up around you.
At Griffin Road and Adams Road, the rioters had guns.
For the first time in the recent disturbances, the police came under gunfire. A shotgun fired from the council flats injured 3 policemen, 1 seriously.
At one point, I felt a bang on the shield, and someone said, "You've got a hole in the shield." If you're standing beside the shield, it comes up to like your shoulder, and there's a crease about a foot or so below the top, so there's a bend in the shield. The bullet hole went through the crease, which means that where you're normally sort of in a stooped position, your head is normally right in line with that crease in the shield. But I'm a coward. I was well down below that.
Rocks, petrol bombs, and now guns, and still they were ordered to stand there. In the absence of baton guns, the police improvised.
The police themselves, who were now outside of the farm perimeter, at certain times, a whistle would go off. At the time, the police lines were such that they had the long shields employed. They had rows and rows and rows of police, long shields. The shields that were placed over the heads of some officers were raised. The officers who had shields then started to move forward. Shield first, then boots. Shield next, and then boots. When they get to these boundaries, on the estate almost, the whistle goes off, the shields go down, shields on top came across, and everybody went down. And then the whistle went off, and then the shields would come up the top, and they'd start going backwards. Hundreds of them. And everyone's looking, and all those people who had gone into the estate now, they're starting to come out again. And what actually happened was the police had covered all of the missiles that had been thrown at them previously. They'd picked up the artillery or the weapons, they backed off, bringing out the crowd, and then they launched an attack.
I think it's fair to say that yes, we did award a few back in the opposite direction.
Did you throw anything back?
Oh yeah. I sent a piece of masonry down, and I remember the arc that it came in at, and it hit a young lad on the head, and it took off again in much a similar arc. It did worry me a bit because it must have been a significant injury, I should think, but that's all I remember of that.
The noise, it's something I've never been really used to. And I'd done the Brixton riots a week or so before that. But that seemed easy compared to what this was. We were sort of trapped into a junction, and then everything would go quiet, and you'd hear the next junction being attacked. And then whistles would blow, and they'd come back to that junction. And it was as if it was orchestrated, definitely organised from within the estate itself. There was as if there was a rank structure there.
The idea that something was organised is yeah, it would be funny if it wasn't so serious. It would be laughable. It is laughable. The police had to put out they was organised because they took a bloody good hiding.
The control room at Wood Green was still inundated with cries for help. But the lack of coherent information was making it difficult to take strategic decisions.
I was desperate to get out here because I'm not a good person at sitting on my fingers in control rooms. We got to a point where there were very few situation reports coming back in to let us have an idea in the control room what was happening. And that's when I came out here to Mount Pleasant Road with 20 officers.
So ferocious were the attacks at Griffin and Adams Roads that a call was put in to the Police Commissioner, Sir Kenneth Newman. For half an hour, senior officers had argued heatedly about whether to use CS gas and rubber bullets. The Commissioner approved, but left the decision to his officers on the ground. This was potentially an historic decision. Rubber bullets had never been used on mainland Britain. In the event, and to the dismay of the officers under attack, the baton gunners were never called into action. Things were still relatively quiet near the notorious Tangmere House. Here at Gloucester Road sat Serial 502 and Chief Superintendent Colin Couch. Though short on public order training, he was one of the senior officers on the ground. Then reports started coming through of a fire. The supermarket on the mezzanine floor in Tangmere House was ablaze. Colin Couch decided the fire crews needed protection and radioed the control room for assistance. Overwhelmed, they were unable to respond quickly enough.
Yes, received. Yankee Tango 5-1.
The only people available close to the fire were the men of Serial 502, which included PC Keith Blakelock. None of them knew the estate.
We were going in to protect the fire brigade, who were going to go in and put the fire out. And as soon as the fire had been put out, we were going to withdraw.
And we went off down the path, and I remember everybody looked at each other as if to say, I don't like the sound of this too much. And I remember saying, as if to nobody, we need to get in there pretty quick and come out pretty quick.
While the probationers and community bobbies of Serial 502 prepared to go in, van loads of officers were still in reserve. John McCaskill was among one group of 50 angry and frustrated men.
Your colleagues were out there getting whatever they were getting, and you weren't in any way, shape or form able to help them. I would imagine there would be 50, 55 police officers. And 55 police officers running flat out with a stick in their hand. They could make a nasty mess of these morons that were in front of us, but obviously nobody had the power or the wherewithal to take that on board.
As Serial 502 escorted the firemen towards the blaze above them in Tangmere, word spread amongst the rioters. The police were on the farm.
I think that we were kind of perhaps lulled into a false sense of security, and that it'd been so quiet for so long that we thought, well, nothing possibly bad can happen because it's all happening over the other side of the estate, you know. What we've forgotten is that there are these walkways which, if you know them, enable you to get from one side the Broadwater Farm to the other very, very quickly.
We were sort of banging on our shields and all that sort of thing, which was a bit of a laugh, really, because, I mean, we were only probationers and community officers. We didn't really know what to expect. I remember having a conversation with, I think it was Dick Coombs and Keith Blakelock, and Keith was saying that whenever he'd been to an incident like this, nothing ever happened. The visors were down. We started moving across the grass towards the underground car park. And from the underground car park, there's some steps that go up to the deck of Tangmere. There weren't many people about, but I was aware of people still moving about on the walkways. We got up onto the deck of Tangmere, and you can see down into the underground car park. I could see people with their faces covered coming from underneath the Tangmere block, carrying bottles, long, sort of machete-type instruments.
The rioters that poured in underneath Tangmere raced up the stairs leading to the deck.
A bell rang, and before we knew it, out of the darkness from the stairwells in front of us appeared a number of people, all masked, all with bottles, and there was a kind of Mexican standoff, if you like, where they didn't really know what their next move was going to be, and we sure as hell didn't know what our next move was going to be. We were trapped. We were up there, and we were surrounded.
Over on the other side of the farm, Chief Superintendent Alan Stainsby had arrived with his 20 reserve officers.
Each of the entrances was coming under attack at different times. It wasn't all the entrances having problems, so there were these little lulls. We were just in the process of briefing our officers, or I was briefing my 20 people to go in and take over, when the message came from Gloucester Road about a serial in serious trouble.
Unit calling for urgent assistance.
That serial was number 502, with Keith Blakelock, Steve Martin and Richard Coombs. They were still on the deck at Tangmere, but were being forced back towards the stairs. They now realised they were fighting for their lives.
But you've got that sense, that feeling, that that's what they wanted to kill as many police officers as they possibly can. And they were shouting, kill the bill, kill the pigs.
We kept ourselves pretty much together and we backed off towards the top of the stairs. By this time, the crowd were pretty much on top of us.
Every time I think about it, it makes me go cold, because I just, it's that feeling that you're penned in and trapped.
It then began to get very dark as we went downstairs, and we were brushing against the sides of the walls, and the shields were scraping against the walls. At this point, I knew that we really were in serious trouble.
The stairs took them down into the car park, which was by now full of armed rioters waiting for the officers.
I remember looking behind me at one point, and there were rioters all around. I remember thinking to myself, if I can get out of this, I've still got this to deal with behind. And it was almost becoming a hopeless situation.
The two fought their way through the covered car park towards the edge of the estate and safety.
And I remember at that point turning round and seeing in the darkness a group of people round what looked like a bunch of rags on the floor. And something in me told me that that was a police officer. Don't ask me what. I just kind of had that feeling that it was a police officer. And I couldn't see clearly. All I had this impression, and it's one that I shall always have with me, is it was like vultures pecking at something on the ground because of the silhouette of the colours and all the rest of it.
It's difficult to describe what you feel when you can see one of your colleagues on the floor being attacked by so many people, and you can see their arms moving up and moving down and moving up and moving down, and with machetes and knives just cutting into his body. And although it was from a distance, I knew exactly what was happening.
PC Keith Blakelock tripped over the low wall that separated the car park from the grass. Once down, he was defenceless.
The only thing I had was this truncheon and my shield. I just ran as fast as my legs would take me, and I used up all the energy that I had in my lungs, and I just screamed like a banshee and just ran into the crowd. And just made as much contact as I could, really.
And I was running then towards where what I now know as Keith's body. And all the time you're being attacked as you're running. And at some stage I was fell to the ground.
I knew that if I were to fall over, then there's a good chance that I could be killed without any shadow of a doubt. The sensation that I was feeling is very much like where you have the noise of a swimming pool. You can hear the noise above the water, and then you dive into the pool. All you can hear is yourself. You can hear perhaps your own heart, but you can hear muffled noise in the background perhaps. When I look back on the incident, the noises that I could hear were pretty much the same. It is very similar to that above the water and below the water experience.
With Steve Martin drifting towards unconsciousness and worse, the very fireman he'd gone in to protect now did the same for him.
If it hadn't been for the two guys from the fire brigade, then I don't know. I don't know what would have happened to me, really.
Steve Martin was badly shaken but unhurt. Richard Coombs, the second officer to fall at Tangmere, was in a critical condition. Both were taken to hospital. Keith Blakelock was dead, hacked and stabbed to death by a mob. He had 40 separate wounds. Alan Stainsby arrived at Gloucester Road. The rest of Serial 502 were retreating in shock to their vans.
Every different type of behaviour. There was one guy I can still remember in the front garden beating a bush with a truncheon. Another man was just sat quietly on the edge of the pavement crying into his hands. The whole range of emotions you'll get from a group of people who work together on a daily basis and get sent somewhere and exposed to the horror of losing one of their colleagues. They knew they'd lost Keith Blakelock.
The news that an officer had been killed spread quickly across the farm. Their anger spent, rioters started to drift away. Keith Blakelock's death stunned rank and file police officers. Many were reduced to tears of anger, frustration and bewilderment. Police remained in strength into the early hours of the morning when they received a visit from Sir Kenneth Newman, Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. The boss man himself came down, did he not?
Oh, the metronome, Mr. Newman. We call him a metronome because he's a midget. And he was walking up with his entourage. Just in front of him, there was a carrier door went, and all the blokes got on the carrier and slammed the door. And he walked past that one, then he got to the next one, door shut. Then the next one, and the door shut. Just a clunk, 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 as he was walking up. Because everybody that was there did not want to speak to them, well, other than the normal bag carriers and toilet seat wipers, you know, they'd always want to speak to the Commissioner. But it was certainly a demonstration of discontent by a large amount of police officers.
In the weeks that followed, there would be questions aplenty to ask. That night, Steve Martin's was the obvious one.
Why? Why were they so angry that they had to kill somebody who was married with children and just went to work like we all do to earn money to support his family? He was another human being. He didn't deserve to die like that.
At 4:30, the police, carrying baton guns and in overwhelming numbers, took the farm. They met no resistance. But the Broadwater Farm was now a murder scene.
This Monday morning, a policeman has been stabbed to death in overnight rioting in Tottenham in North London. And for the first time, rioters have used guns.
The Met's first thoughts the next morning were for the Blakelock family. Inspector Dick Shepherd was sent to look after Keith's wife Liz and their 3 young boys.
The boys were just lost souls. They just wandered from adult to adult, and it was harrowing sometimes because every half an hour Keith's face would be flashed on the screen. It was just one long torment for the family.
Named as PC Keith Blakelock, aged 40, married with 3 children.
One of the boys just went up to the television and sort of hugged the screen as his father's picture appeared on the screen. What can you do?
Within hours, a murder team had been assembled, headed by Detective Chief Superintendent Graham Melvin. But police at the scene were not thinking like detectives and stood by while Haringey Council cleared up. Debris was removed to stop it being used in a second night of rioting, but the debris was also the evidence.
We failed to put a cordon around that, and therefore we lost much evidence in those first hours. It's true to say as well that much was burnt, and much clothing was, from the rioters was burnt. Knives were thrown into bins and all that sort of thing. But so we lost a great deal.
With no forensic evidence, the police needed eyewitnesses and confessions. Within a week, Winston Silcott found himself in a cell.
I must have dozed off. I can't remember the actual time span. But I was aware of people in the cell. When I've opened up my eyes, there's about 4 or 5 police officers. And all of a sudden, they've rushed me.
What's going on? What are you doing? Get the fucking hands off me! What? What's this about?
I'm thinking that they're gonna beat me up or something. And they pull me into the custody suite. And as I'm struggling, there's a camera on a tripod with a man behind the camera.
So what? So what, eh? What's up?
All of a sudden, the police officers let go of my hands
What? You're in trouble?
because of the tension of me struggling. Slowly rise like this, and the police officer starts taking pictures of me.
This was how the image that has come to define Winston Silcott in the public mind was born. Over the next 15 months, police laid siege to the farm.
It was rage, pure rage. I remember one officer fronting me, facing me and telling me, I'm not one of those Tottenham coppers. I don't fuck about, I'm from Chelsea. And then he offered to take me over the park and have a fight with me.
Everyone was a suspect. Arriving outside Stafford Scott's house, the police were armed.
I saw a point go across, the person bend, stoop and go across, but the point was up. And I know it was a gun. So I asked myself the question, what the hell is this? I went up there, opened the curtain, saw the police kneeling down there with the gun turned towards the door.
Officers put firearms on me, and I mean pressed them in, as other officers took my arms, handcuffed me behind my back, handcuffed my legs.
And they took every knife I had in the kitchen. They emptied the things, they take my utensils, everything. They take all my food.
And he just looked at me and said, Stafford Scott, I'm arresting you for the murder of PC Blakelock and the riot that took place on October the 6th on Broadwater Farm.
I always respect police, and I would never go out there and be rude to one. Now I will do it. I won't help them at all now.
Stafford Scott had only been on the farm acting for Haringey Council. Police needed witnesses and cooperation, but this approach meant people closed ranks against them. The police blamed lack of progress on a climate of fear, little imagining their approach might contribute.
The police said that they came here and there was a climate of fear. There's no doubt about that. This is one of the few things that both sides agree. What we say, though, is that the climate of fear was created by the police. That, you know, by the mere fact that they said the day after that everybody who was on Broadwater Farm that night was a potential murder suspect. People who could have been witnesses were actually turned off from being witnesses.
That those involved in the riots and the crimes of that night were petrified that we would find out who they were. So there was a climate of fear amongst them, fear of detection, fear of discovery.
Police believed that Winston Silcott, Sticks to his friends, was the ringleader on the night. In 4 interviews, he said almost nothing, but other suspects were starting to talk. When 13-year-old Jason Hill had been dragged in, he'd quickly confessed to stealing chocolate. But then he'd produced a horrific story. The killers had wanted to put Keith Blakelock's head on a pole. Now, after a night in just his underpants and a blanket, he was about to confess to murder.
Why were you taken over to the body?
Because it seemed too much.
What did you do with the sword?
The first time, I had to go over another cut. The second time, I had to make my own mark.
Why did you have to slash the policeman a second time?
Because Sticks said I had to make my own mark.
Was Sticks in charge of the attack?
No, he wasn't in charge. If Sticks said or did anything, everyone else copied and followed.
At just after 7 p.m. on the 13th of October, Graham Melvin and his deputy, Max Dingle, began their 5th and final interview with Winston Silcott. Their account of what happened next would get Winston Silcott convicted, but it would return to haunt the detectives. The police had taken more than 1,000 photographs at the riot. Local officers had told Graham Melvin that they had some of Winston Silcott.
Got a number of photographs here that were taken during the evening of the violence on the 6th of October on the Broadwater Farm Estate. Please have a look at them.
That's not me. I'm black. He's light-skinned, and his nose is wrong.
A photograph.
You tell me. You know it all. If that's all you got nothing, man. You've made a mistake. That's not me, and you try and say that's me. That's stupid, man.
It was obvious that the identification by the local officers was indeed wrong.
What was your reaction to that?
The word disappointment comes into mind, but perhaps it was a lot more acute than that. What the interview was going to be structured around had now gone. A bit of a kick, really. A bit of a kick, that one.
I think you were there that night. I think you were leaning over the body of PC Blakelock. I think you had either a machete or some kind of sword which you hit him with.
Who told you that?
I'm not at liberty to tell you who told me about your part in his murder. Suffice to say that I was told you played an active part.
You've only had kids in so far, haven't you?
If it had only been one person who told me about your part in the crime, I wouldn't be so sure that you were the ringleader that night. Well, but when others come along and tell the same story, the facts become clear.
Winston Silcott has always insisted he said none of these things and that he gave his interrogators no help at all.
Jesus. Did you murder Police Constable Blakelock?
You ain't got enough evidence. Those kids will never go to court. Nobody else will talk to you. You can't keep me away from them.
What do you mean by that?
Ain't saying no more. And you've got a big surprise coming. You'll probably be out of a job.
Are you trying to tell me that any witnesses are in danger from you?
Just take me down and charge me. You ain't got no evidence. I ain't saying no more. I ain't signing anything. You ain't got no evidence.
The account Jason Hill had given of that night's events had strayed from the known facts, but the police apparently ignored this. PC Blakelock's murder had been a frenzied affair with no time for the bizarre rituals he described. The investigation was producing results, but were they reliable? When he found himself sitting opposite a different detective, Jason Hill retracted his story.
Police officer, he made me say I was at the murder. I didn't know about the murder till the next day. I read about it on teletext.
Nevertheless, Jason Hill was one of 3 juveniles to be charged with murder. There were 3 adults also charged. One of them was Winston Silcott. At the trial, the judge threw out the case against the juveniles, describing Hill's story as fantasy. The only evidence against Winston Silcott was the police record of that 5th interview. But the jury still returned a guilty verdict. What the jury hadn't known, and what the tabloids now trumpeted, was that Winston Silcott was already serving a life sentence for killing Anthony Smith in a fight at a party. Silcott says that it was the Smith conviction that stopped him giving evidence in his own defence in the Blakelock trial. If he'd accused the police of making up the interview, the prosecution could have told the jury about the Smith murder.
For me to go in the dock and say to the members of the jury that the evidence against me was fabricated, the police are telling lies, it's all rubbish. Obviously, how the courts work, they refer to your criminal convictions and they bring your criminal convictions out. So now, imagine the scenario if they brought my criminal conviction out that I'm already serving a life sentence to the jury, right? The jury would have no qualms. Well, he's already in there. That's obviously going to taint their mind straight away.
Now, in his own words, Winston Silcott tells his story of what happened that night. Silcott had been on bail for the Smith murder during the run-up to the Broadwater Farm riot. He'd spent Saturday with his girlfriend Helena and hadn't heard the news about Cynthia Jarrett's death.
Yeah. I'm here to sign.
Hang on, I'll have to call you back. You've got to pay.
That Sunday evening, he'd come back to Tottenham Police Station to sign on.
In the police station, I'm just totally ignored by the police. They just walk past me like we're not there. There was a couple of other people there to sign on as well at the time. And they just walked right past us, and then one stopped and says, what do you want? So I said, to sign on. This process takes about, say, 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? Something big's happening in Tottenham because something's going down and something's wrong.
After signing on, Winston Silcott's girlfriend dropped him back at the farm. He went to Tangmere to check on his greengrocers.
I go to my shop just to make sure there's no damage or whatever. But as I'm hanging around and listening to people, this is when I realise Cynthia Jarrett died the night before. Who I knew the Jarretts. So I was thinking, this is a liberty, this is.
He heard about meetings at the Youth Association and a march on Tottenham Police Station. But he knew this was perilous territory for a man already on bail for murder.
I grew up with some of the Jarretts. My heart, I wanted to be there. But because of the position I was in, I knew it was like totally impossible to all the rumours and what was being said, what was happening. I said, well, if I was in that situation, obviously they're going to try to take away my bail.
Things were heating up on the farm. Silcott says a friend offered him a place out of the way.
This woman, Pam Maguire, who lived on the Broadwater Farm, she said, listen, Winston, you don't want to be amongst all this. You know you're the first person they're going to come for, whatever. I went up to her house with her, where she lived there with her 3 sisters. Went into the flat. There was already a few people up there. Some people was like just talking in general and watching Kung Fu movies. But while I was watching the Kung Fu movies, I fell asleep. My first knowledge of a police officer had died was when there was a cheering in the house I was in. That's what woke me up, that it came on the news that a police officer had been killed. My belief that they were cheering that because they think the police had it coming for all the hassle and the harassment and brutality was for what went on before.
The Maguires won't speak to us about that night and didn't appear in court at the time. But over the next 4 years, doubts about the convictions of Silcott and his 2 co-defendants grew, keeping their names in the public eye. The police technique that would clear him had been adopted in the late 70s to deal with forgery. Police interviews were supposed to be written down contemporaneously in official notebooks. Pressure from the pen on one page will leave an impression on the page beneath it. Electrostatic document analysis shows up this impression. Any interruption in the sequence of impressions could suggest pages have been altered or added later. In the summer of 1991, the test was done on the notes of Winston Silcott's crucial 5th interview.
Good evening. Winston Silcott, one of the so-called Tottenham Three, jailed for life after the murder of a policeman in the Broadwater Farm riot 6 years ago, has been cleared by the appeal court. The Crown said scientific evidence showed Silcott's alleged confession could no longer be relied upon.
As evidence on which to base a murder conviction, and that's all there was, the interview was worthless. In clearing Silcott, the appeal court judges made an unprecedented apology to him. The Metropolitan Police would later pay him £50,000. Detectives Graham Melvin and Max Dingle were suspended.
It was a shock. Most people will tell you that I was quite a proud police officer and an active police officer. Be suspended over allegations which you knew were totally unfounded. It was a kick in a most uncomfortable place.
In 1994, Graham Melvin and Max Dingle stood trial for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Melvin was also charged with perjury. they were cleared. None of this brings us closer to an answer to the question, who did kill PC Blakelock?
In a strange sort of way, the Blakelock family and your interests will be better served by finding the real killers.
Well, it would be. And that's why I think now there should be a public inquiry from start to finish and look into every aspect throughout the whole thing.
A public inquiry is unlikely, but a third police murder investigation launched in December 2003 will face significant hurdles. Many police officers still bear the scars of that terrible violence, and the wounds inflicted on the black community in Tottenham are just as deep. But these are the people on whom the police are depending for answers. The killers are still out there, and that exacerbates a continuing climate of fear. That night, there were no winners. The death of Cynthia Jarrett triggered a series of events which continue to haunt all of those they touched.
I wish there was a way I could have expressed my condolences to the Jarrett family and to the Blakelocks. You know, I wish there was some way that I could have gone back and said, look, I really am sorry. I really am sorry about your mum dying. But we didn't do anything wrong. And I wish... Sorry, but I wish I'd taken the time to go and speak to Mrs. Blakelock and to see her and her sons and sort of say to them, you know, we didn't do it. Sorry. We didn't do it.
The tragedy at Grenfell Tower should never have happened. The deaths of 72 people should have served as a wake-up call. But 12 months on, there are people living in high-rise social housing whose lives are at risk because of structural defects dating back decades that have not been fixed. The future is uncertain for some of the 87 households on this North London estate. They are being forced from their flats after being suddenly told in June this year by Haringey Council that their block is at risk of collapse because of a construction fault that's been known about for years, but only now being addressed.
We hoped that we'd be here for a number of years and not sort of like being told 30, 40 years down the line, your house is going to collapse. You don't expect that, you don't expect that.
Alex moved into Tangmere, the block that is being evacuated, in 1982, but she's been told she and her husband will now have to move out by the end of October.
My kids were born and brought up on the estate, so there's a lot of memories. There's not many people on the estate now who I know from when they were growing up. There's only a few. Even my friends have all moved off and moved away, so we're basically just the two of us now.
So you're looking forward to moving?
Well, we're looking forward to moving, yeah.
The 116 flats in this 6-storey building were built in the 1970s using what's known as the Large Panel System, or LPS. That's the same kind of construction which caused a section of this high-rise block, Ronan Point, in East London to collapse 50 years ago. A small gas explosion in a kitchen flat caused the floors to give way. 4 people were killed and many left injured. In the wake of Grenfell, structural tests were carried out on all the tower blocks on this estate. Haringey Council has told people living in Tangmere that the risk of a Ronan Point style collapse is low, but the threat is sufficiently high that they need to be moved out.
It's a little bit annoying, but mostly sad more than anything else.
I've been here 22, 23 years now. And this gas problem, because of this gas problem, you told us you're going to remove us. And every day they said different. Every day they're going to meeting twice. So they don't tell us any good things.
It's a combination of the large panel system of construction and a gas supply that makes this block unsafe.
So this represents the external slab of the building, the load-bearing wall.
Arnold Tarling is a private surveyor and fire safety expert who knows the design of these buildings.
Now in those days they had to drop it, so bang. And this had unreinforced nibs, it depended where it landed. The bolts were then meant to be lowered down and dry packing put in when the next panel was then lowered in. That was never done. And these bits were omitted. Now those should have been fixed around the bolts and then fixed onto the slabs to tie the structure together. But to save time and get paid more, they left them out. And when there's a gas explosion, this floor lifts up, that wall goes out and the whole lot collapses. And all the rest of it is stacked on the top like a pack of cards, the whole lot collapses.
Haringey Council have told residents they must be out by the end of October when the gas will be switched off, meaning there will be no heating or hot water. But many residents still don't know where they are going to end up.
And this is my bedroom. It's all the packing. See?
So you've started packing, have you?
Yeah, but
you don't know where to start?
You don't know where to start because I love my place and but how come?
Nearly 20 years you've spent in this flat.
20 years, yes. And one day move. Yeah, it's a lot of things for you.
Archbishop Frimpong has already started packing. He's been living out of his suitcases for weeks. He moved on to Broadwater Farm after the 1985 riots.
The sky was lit up as petrol bombs lobbed from the flats landed among the police. In the words of one senior officer, it wasn't England, it was madness.
The riots were sparked by the death of grandmother Cynthia Jarrett, who died of heart failure after a police raid on her home on the 5th of October 1985. A police officer, PC Keith Blakelock, was stabbed to death in the ensuing violence. The area will forever be associated with these scenes. But although the community here has seen change, people feel that the council has neglected Tangmere over many years. The walls are damp, there are leaks and mould.
Now we prefer to move because nobody wants to die. You can see the dumping, this place everywhere. People in this block, a lot of them are suffering. I know a flat, every situation they call me, you go to somebody's flat, you see the number of dumping, leakages and everything, and you say, why? Why should we live in this?
The neglect of the block over many years might have put residents' health at risk, but the council also failed to heed warnings about the danger to people's lives. We've been told by one expert who raised concerns as far back as the 1980s that residents have long been at risk.
Well, the council has always had people at risk here ever since they put the gas in the 80s. In fact, in the early 80s, they had a report on the structure of these buildings by Sam Webb, an eminent architect, and he condemned them as not being built correctly. In the mid to late 80s, the Building Research Establishment did a report on large panel systems saying that they were dangerous and you should regularly check them. You know, what's happened to those reports? What's happened to all the reports in between?
You know this building inside out. What are your main concerns about it?
I've raised concerns about the way in the building's constructed. I've raised concerns about the fact that they have gas in them when they shouldn't. And I also have concerns about their fire doors, when they've got plastic fire doors defectively installed, when the fire doors to fronts of flats don't have door closers, so anyone leaving in a fire, the front door can be left open into the common parts. There's lots of problems with this block.
The council is still in consultation about whether to demolish or to refurbish Tangmere. The estimated cost of repairs is £13 million. Although some residents oppose plans for it to be demolished, others in the community want to see it pulled down. Clashford coaches the youth football team on the estate. He first moved here in 1978.
At the end of the day, the problems with Tangmere is the mere fact that it's lived its shelf life. They haven't found anything in there that's illegal. it's lived its shelf life. You understand what I'm saying? It now needs to be knocked down and rebuilt. And I mean, it's as simple as that.
But that's not how some people who've lived on the block most of their lives see it. I'm on my way to meet a man who moved in 1986, but now he's worried about where he's going to live.
Hello. Hi Patrick.
Patrick started squatting on the estate when he was 21. Later, he was offered this studio flat.
In a way, I've made this my home, you know. Now all of a sudden they just want to get us and kick us out and put us somewhere maybe worse.
3 generations of Patrick's family have also lived on the estate. His mom, brother and sister, who've now left.
You've lived here a long time.
30 years. So, I've never moved in my life, so to me it's like hard just thinking about it day by day. But what can I do? If they have to kick us out, they've got to kick us out.
But the problem is you don't know where you're going to be moving to.
No.
You've not been offered anywhere to live?
No, not at the moment. Well, they said they might have found me somewhere, like in a converted house, which I specifically said that I don't want. But like I said, they're just giving us the first property we have to move to. Like we've got no second options.
We can see a lot of damage to the room as well.
Yeah, that was from the leak from upstairs.
What's it been like living in these conditions for such a long time?
You just get used to it.
Patrick has yet to receive a formal offer for a new flat. The council says of the 87 residents in Tangmere, 60 have been offered alternative accommodation, but only 19 have so far accepted their offers. But in just over 2 months, they all have to leave. Most don't know where they will end up. But is Tangmere just the tip of the iceberg? This programme has been told by the research group Tower Block UK that there are 1,500 large panel system blocks that need to be structurally investigated to ensure they are not in danger of progressive collapse. Other tower blocks in London, Leicester and Portsmouth have been evacuated, leading to concerns that councils already strapped for cash will struggle to find funds to deal with rehousing affected residents.
You might have a row of 100 houses and one person doesn't want to move. So what do if you're a politician? You know that this estate, this row of 100 houses really ought to be demolished and modernised and replaced. There comes a point when you have to say, well, we're going to compulsorily acquire that one. The people won't like it, they'll object, and they will go to someone like you and say, we've been victimised and all of that. But the alternative is simply to sit there and say, well, there's nothing we can do. That's the job of a politician, to make those lonely decisions.
As Environment Secretary in the 1980s, Lord Heseltine was responsible for reviving rundown estates in high poverty areas across the country. He now wants the government to offer more support to local authorities to deal with the housing crisis.
I'd like to see far more power from London switched to local people and local authorities and local communities, because I think they have a greater sense of stake, a greater involvement, a greater knowledge of what needs to be done.
Back in Tangmere, at least one resident is happy. Jacob is from the Residents Association group. In the last few days, he's accepted an offer from the council for a 1-bedroom flat.
There it is, it's that tower up there. That's what I've been offered. It's a nice block, you know, I'd say it's the nicest one on the estate, which is why I asked for it. So, you know, in some ways I'm happy, but it is a huge upheaval. I mean, and probably it was an upheaval I'd rather have avoided, I have to say.
Like everything's all in my bed.
But for Patrick, this is a stressful time. Despite his crumbling flat, he's reluctant to move without assurances of a better life. He doesn't believe that's what the council will provide him.
Well, they should let us stay, really. And do, like they said in the other blocks, they're putting all
electric boilers in, and they could do that to this block and Norfolk. But because apparently there's a problem with the gas supply or something. So they're just going to kick us all out, and I'd either do it up or knock it down and rebuild it.
After the Grenfell tragedy, residents pointed out that their concerns about safety had been ignored for years. Now politicians are waking up to the potential dangers. But tenants still feel they are losing out. They face months of uncertainty, and they are losing faith.
As we draw the curtains on this exploration of Broadwater Farm Estate, the echoes of the dynamic history linger in the air, leaving us with both a deeper understanding and lingering questions. The estate, once marked by riots and shadowed by the complexities of gang dynamics, emerges as a symbol of resilience and transformation. The infamous Broadwater Farm riot of 1985 serves as a testament to the social fissures that erupted within these concrete walls. Yet as we reflect on those eventful times, we must ask ourselves, what social factors catalysed such unrest, and how have these factors evolved or persisted since then? Have the roots of discontent been addressed, or do they continue to shape the community present and future? Central to the narrative were the gangs, intricate social structures born out of the necessity for survival. As we unravel the tales of these groups, questions emerge about the broader context that gave rise to them. How have economic opportunities, or the lack of, shaped the dynamics of gangs' presence? And crucially, what initiatives have been taken to break the cycle of gang affiliation and foster alternatives for the youth? The Broadwater Farm Estate, though laden with complex history, stands as a testament to the resilience of its community. Yet we must inquire about the ongoing challenges and triumphs that defined its contemporary narrative. How has the estate evolved in the aftermath of its eventful past? What initiatives have been undertaken to address the systematic issues that once ignited unrest? As we navigate the layers of this community story, one cannot help but wonder about the broader implications for urban development, social justice, and the narratives of communities facing similar challenges worldwide. What can the lessons learned from Broadwater Farm Estate be applied to foster positive change in other communities grappling with similar issues? In conclusion, Broadwater Farm Estate invites us to engage in a dialogue that extends beyond the physical boundaries. It challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths, question the systems in place, and actively contribute to the ongoing narrative of urban communities. The questions posed by its history beckons us to reflect not only on the past, but also on the collective responsibility we bear for shaping a more equitable and compassionate future.